And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann Report for today. It's a Thursday, March 7th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann Report. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. We are heard in the United States and Canada, across the world. We are broadcasting. Our home base, by the way, is HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com. We also have a live video feed, if you so desire, at Homeland Security US, the number 1.tk. That's Homeland Security US, the number 1.tk. Joe, welcome to the program tonight.
Glad to be here. Sorry for the delay. I was muting myself as I was moving around, getting settled.
That that really should be muting ourselves. We do that too often. But,
but I guess it's better to not hear all the shuffling and moving than.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, great to be here. Got a lot of news to get into. What you'd call news, I guess. I don't even understand why there's a debate about this issue, why this issue is even in question. But the drone issue, Holder, between Rand Paul, the filibuster, basically Rand Paul stood on the House floor, Senate floor yesterday, and for 12, 13 hours.
13 hours, that's right. It had a candy bar, some peanuts, and some water, I guess.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of the footage of that yet, but he blocked the hearings or the nomination of John Brennan as the director of the CIA. Now, I guess we'll go right to an audio clip.
We got so much to say on this. Absolutely. Let's go to the...
Well, which one do you want to go to? Because... I was going to start with the audio of I think CNN, as they announced, Senate confirms Brennan as the CIA director. But I guess we can hold off on that.
Yeah, let's hold off on that because I've got some other things to say about that. So
let's go. A White House response to what is Rand Paul's question. We have a few politicians, neo-Nazi politicians like Mr. McCain and Lindsey Graham.
Let's get those out of the way first.
Are bashing him. Okay, now, Rand Paul talked in front of the Senate for 16 hours, or 13 hours, 12 hours yesterday, to block the nomination of John Brennan over the use of drones because Eric Holder and the Obama administration have refused to answer letters sent to Senator Paul asking a simple question. Can U.S. citizens be killed on American soil with a drone like in other countries without due process? Now, they never got there's no response, okay? Now, I guess maybe to set this up, let's play the Ted Cruz and Holder.
Yes, please.
Audio first. Now, this is almost 4.5 minute audio. This is Ted Cruz asking Eric Holder a simple question,
and this is well worth it.
And it's almost a 5 minute audio, and he's asking one question. We'll open with this, and we have a lot more audio clips to get into, and a lot to talk about on this issue. But here is Eric Holder saying killing Americans with drones on U.S. soil is unconstitutional, but there are exceptions.
I'd like to address 3 areas, and I'd like to start with the topic you were just discussing, the topic of drones. In your response to Senator Paul yesterday, you suggested there may well be circumstances in which it is permissible to use drones to target a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil. I'd like to explore those circumstances, and in particular you pointed to 2. You pointed to Pearl Harbor and 9/11, both of which were extreme military attacks on the homeland. Mm-hmm. I want to ask a more specific question. If an individual is sitting quietly at a cafe in the United States, in your legal judgment, does the Constitution allow a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil to be killed by a drone?
For sitting in a cafe and having a cup of coffee?
If that individual is not posing an imminent and immediate threat of death or bodily harm, does the Constitution allow a drone to kill that individual?
On the basis of what you said, I don't think you can arrest that person.
The person is suspected to be a terrorist. You have abundant evidence he's a terrorist. He's involved in terrorist plots. But at the moment, he's not pointing a bazooka at the Pentagon. He is sitting in a cafe. Overseas, the United States government uses drones to take out individuals when they're walking down a pathway when they're sitting at a cafe. If a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil is not posing an immediate threat to life or bodily harm, does the Constitution allow a drone to kill that citizen?
I would not think that that would be an appropriate use of any kind of lethal force. We would deal with that in the way that we typically deal with a situation like that. Would expect
with respect, General Holder, my question wasn't about appropriateness or prosecutorial discretion. It was a simple legal question. Does the Constitution allow a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil who doesn't pose an imminent threat to be killed by the U.S. government?
I do not believe that. Again, you have to look at all of the facts, but on the facts that you have given me, and this is a hypothetical, I would not think that in that situation the use of a drone or lethal force would be appropriate, because
General Holder, I have to tell you, I find it remarkable that in that hypothetical, which is deliberately very simple, you are unable to give a simple one-word, one-syllable answer, no. I think it is unequivocal that if the U.S. government were to use a drone to take the life of a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil and that individual did not pose an imminent threat, that would be a deprivation of life without due process.
Maybe I've not been clear. I said that the use of lethal force, and I'm saying drones, guns, or whatever else would not be appropriate in that circumstance.
You keep saying appropriate. My question isn't about propriety. My question is about whether something is constitutional or not. As Attorney General, you are the chief legal officer of the United States. Do you have a legal judgment on whether it would be constitutional to kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil in those circumstances?
A person who is not engaged, as you described. Again, this is the problem with hypotheticals. But the way in which you have described this person sitting at the cafe, not doing anything imminently, the use of lethal force would not be appropriate, would not be something...
I find it remarkable that you still will not give an opinion on the constitutionality. Let me move on to the next topic, because we've gone round and round.
Let me be clear. Translate my appropriate to no. I thought I was saying no, all right?
No. Well, then I am glad. After much gymnastics, I am very glad to hear that it is the opinion of the Department of Justice that it would be unconstitutional to kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil if that individual did not pose an imminent threat. That statement has not been easily forthcoming. I wish you had given that statement in response to Senator Paul's letter asking you it. And I will point out that this week I will be introducing legislation in the Senate to make clear that the U.S. government cannot kill a U.S. citizen on U.S. soil absent an imminent threat. And I hope, based on that representation, that the Department will support that legislation.
Well, that's totally consistent with the letter that I sent to Senator Paul. I talked about 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Those are the instances where I said it might possibly be considered, but that other than that, we would use our normal law enforcement authorities in order to resolve situations along those lines, and then use the normal things that you do when you try to decide if cops can shoot somebody.
And there you have it. As at the end there, you heard him say, as he sent in a letter. Well, the only letter we've seen is a letter I just posted in the chat room, which is nothing about 9/11 or Pearl Harbor.
Actually, there was one before that. Okay.
Was there really?
Yes, there was.
Was it released? Because I missed that.
Yes, it was released. Okay. It was released, and I think it was on Tuesday or Monday. But here's my situation with this. Okay, having spent almost 30 years in a courtroom, here's my situation with this. Holder was parsing words. I mean, I've seen this. I've been in that position.
Letting both sides know, pretty much, or trying to appease the one side, being those asking the questions, with an answer kind of leaning towards the way they want, what they want to hear, but at the same time,
no, he was
talking.
Yeah, he was. Look, he was playing Cruz, and I've done this because you have an attorney that asks you a question that you could wiggle out of. You're going to take every wiggle room there is.
Was it a spiteful legal maneuver, or
it was semantics?
Was it because of the was he doing it because of animosity towards the man and his question, or was he doing it because there's an actual legal issue here that needs to be addressed? That
he didn't want to answer the question. See, and like again, me sitting in a witness stand, if I was Holder and I was asked that question the way Cruz, asked it, I would find every legal or every word to get out of answering that question. So he did exactly what I've done so many times in my career.
I've heard you a few times. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Trying to avoid an answer or answering specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, the way you set it up, the initial, and people really have to understand how this is playing out because it is so important. We're not getting the full story on this. No,
and you would think in this instance like this, where the question of does the government have the right to murder you with an unmanned aerial, basically fighter jet, can they kill you on U.S. soil like they kill other people in other nations without any due process? I mean, you're talking about...
Wait a second. Let's not go straight too far from this question because I think it's important for people to really understand what happened here. The original question by Ted Cruz implied, but was not asked, implied that the person sitting in the cafe was a terrorist. He did not ask it. Therefore, Holder did not have to address it.
Cruz did say, let's say the man was
the second time. Listen to it carefully.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay, the first time out, he did not specify. He just said, somebody sitting in the cafe somewhere, can you, U.S. citizen, U.S. soil, all right, bam. And so Holder, and you could parse this, 5 ways from Sunday. I'm going to tell you, it's I've done it before, and no, of course not. If he poses no, if he's not on a terrorist watch list or whatever.
Holder said that there's not even justification to arrest the person.
Exactly. Now, if you weigh out his final answer, the very final answer, though, and you put it up to even the letter, okay,
these people aren't stupid. I mean, these people...
No, this is
like the evil genius.
This is a very deliberate method of skirting the question because when this comes up, and it will, because there will be a drone strike in the United States. I promise you this, there will be.
There's no other option. I mean, there's so many local law enforcement cities now that use the drones. You have federal agencies like the EPA, the DHS, all the NSA using these spy drones, and then agencies, the CIA and other black agencies we don't even really know about. Probably private contracting, Blackwater type. I forget their new name of the company. Agencies running drones in this country. And you're going to hear some more audio. And some of these, one of the clips, they say the drones are not armed. I think McCain says it, but yes,
we know. We know they are.
Yeah.
Man.
I could probably find the clip and upload it for tonight about the drones being armed, coming from the government. But what we're going to do here is, since we had played that clip of Eric Holder talking with Ted Cruz, we're going to go back to Rand Paul and the filibuster. Now, Brennan is Obama's, drone czar, pretty much, more than anything. His official title was the head of the counterterrorism.
People don't realize what just happened with Brennan.
But why is it just even a debate? I mean, people are really debating this, and then you are seeing Rand Paul being marginalized by these neocons, we'll call them that, for asking the question, and you have people like Lindsey Graham, and I'll upload this clip of Lindsey Graham. I don't have it uploaded now.
All right.
Saying you should be, if you are considered an enemy combatant, which includes many things. John McCain even talked about the belligerent, the Enemy Belligerent Act.
I'm going to tell you something, Joe. And I'm speaking from a reformed, once very proud neocon. Okay, that's my position. Believe me, I don't think I mean, I wanted to nuke everybody after 9/11. That was my thought process. So, anyone who wants to take me to task for what I'm about to say, go for it. Yeah. Give me a call. But let me just say this.
Come a long way.
Let me just say this. The reason we're in this position right now goes back to Bush. It goes back to Clinton.
Bush,
and it goes back to Bush the father. It goes back, that whole mindset.
And Bush the father was big time in that too, but his presidency didn't serve as big a role as Bush II's did. But the influence obviously was still there.
But now I'm not just blaming Bush. I'm blaming him for a certain path that we went down. I'm blaming Clinton for a parallel path. I'm blaming George Herbert Walker Bush for a parallel path. And they're not only those presidents, but their appointees in the judiciary and their attorneys general as well. For this, the reason we're here right now, they set this up, whether intentional or just by being stupid. And I don't think they're stupid by any means. They wouldn't be leading the country or get elected or be in the position they're in. So I blame those people. But right now, we have to look at this. They're all in this. See, it's not a Republican-Democrat thing.
No. And listen, the Enemy Belligerent Interrogation and Detention and Prosecution Act of 2010. This was introduced. This is S3081. It was introduced by John McCain.
Right.
And the House counterpart was HR 4892.
Got a copy right here.
Okay. And the bill's summary says, arrest any person... or requires that any person who is arrested on suspicion of terrorism against the United States or its coalition partners be placed in military custody for the purposes of initial interrogation and determination of status as an unprivileged enemy belligerent. Such determination is to be made within 48 hours. The bill proceeds to define unprivileged enemy belligerent as an individual who has engaged in hostilities against the United States or its coalition partners. Now, guys, look up the word hostilities. Look at the definitions. There's like 3 different definitions. And one is behavioral, or a mindset towards having a certain, hostile mindset towards.
Oh, yeah.
So it's very vague here. Number 2, the purpose and materially supported hostilities against the U.S. or its coalition partners, or has purposely and materially supported hostilities against the U.S. or its partners, or was a part of Al-Qaeda at the time of capture. The bill authorizes the president to establish a high-value detainee interrogation group. And it goes on to say, consisting of personnel from the NSA to conduct intelligence interrogation, and the status of their what they're going to be, where they're going to end up, if they're going to end up being in an internment camp, et cetera, et cetera. But, okay, this is John McCain on Rand Paul, as Rand Paul used an excuse or of Ted Cruz talking about the cafe, if somebody sitting in a cafe. This is what McCain said.
Right.
But to say that somehow that even though we would try to take that person, to say that we would hit them in a cafe with a Hellfire missile, first of all, there are no drones with Hellfire missiles anywhere near. They're over in places like Yemen and Afghanistan and other places in the world. So we've done I think, a disservice to a lot of Americans by making them believe that somehow they're in danger from their government. They're not.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel better now.
Yeah.
I feel better.
They're endangered from their government. They're not. And they say, trust the government. And I want to play this clip. This is a little old, but while we're doing these sound bites, these are really good. This is an older audio clip, but listen to this. And when they say trust us, just think of this, because this is pretty good and it's quick.
I thank the gentleman. I rise in opposition of this bill, but I would like to clarify something. We're not trying to scare kids. This president's foreign policy is what's scaring the kids of this country. And that people have said today, why are people believing this? Why are people believing this big internet hoax? Well, it's the same people that told us Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11. Same people that told us Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Same people that told us we were going to be able to use the oil for reconstruction money. Same people that told us that we'd be greeted as liberators, not occupiers. Same people, same president that told us the Taliban is gone. Same president that told us that Poland is our ally 2 days before they pull out. Same president that tells us Iraq is going just great. Same president that tells us the economy is going just great. Same people that told us the tax cut was going to create millions of jobs. Same people that told us that the Medicare program only cost $400 billion when it really cost $540 billion. So please forgive us for not believing what you're saying. Please forgive the students of this country for not believing what you're saying. Not one thing about this war that has been told to the American people or that has been told to these college students has been true. Not one thing. Bremer says we need more troops. The Pentagon says we need more troops. And this president can't get them from the international community. There's only one option left. Let's be honest with the American people. I yield back the balance of my time.
Now, that clip was specifically about something to do with the Afghanistan war about Bush, but it applied.
Who was that?
That was it was a senator or a member of the House. But that applies because everything he said, except for just a few specific references, applies to what we're seeing in this administration. And with this, and there's no accountability when it comes to the wars. They're lying about everything. We saw the lying about the protests is why the CIA / embassy in Benghazi got hit. Lying about Fast and Furious. Lying about...
Whoa, stop. It was the CIA headquarters.
I know. I'm just saying / to cover all the other names it's been called. But anyway, these people have lied to us, and that clip was just to prove a point. They have lied to us every step of the way about everything as an excuse, and they're all lies used as excuses to justify action.
You could actually use that clip for both Bush and Obama.
Yep, I was going to just say that. It is so just like the continuity of agenda we see between the two, the scrutiny would be the same if that's the case. So when you could go back to probably Chris Matthews clips of Bush warmongering rants of his from 2004 to 2007, and probably play them today and interchange Bush for Obama and interchange Iraq and Afghanistan for any of the countries being droned in the Middle East or overthrown in the Middle East, and it would probably fit perfectly.
Exactly. And I just want to say this too. If you go back to less than 3 days, about 3 days after 9/11, remember Tom Daschle. Tom Daschle, the Bush administration, what George Bush did was try to ram through a last-minute change in the congressional description authorizing the use of force. From the Washington Times back in 2005, Daschle was quoted as saying this: just before the Senate acted on this compromise resolution, the White House sought one last change. Literally minutes before the Senate cast its vote, the administration sought to add the words "in the United States" and "after appropriate force" in the agreed-upon text. The last-minute change would have given the president broad authority to exercise expansive powers, not overseas, where we all understood he wanted the authority to act, but right here in the United States, potentially against American citizens. He writes, "I could see no justification for Congress to accede to this extraordinary request for additional authority, and I refused." That's from Tom Daschle in 4 days after 9/11, and then that was reported in. If anyone wants to verify that, in the December 23rd, 2005 edition of the Washington Post.
Wow. I still have an audio on 9/11. We'll play tonight at some point that will put everything into perspective, because somebody told me today, a friend of mine I was talking to me about a book they were reading, When a Nation Forgets God.
Oh yeah, I've got it right here.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And with the talking about the Reichstag fire, and there was a date in I think it was on page 18, March 21st, 1933, and Hitler made a deal with a church or something along those lines. I was not exactly sure what it was, but that's what we were referring to. And I don't know where I was going. Oh, the Reichstag. That event is like the same similar thing was 9/11 here in America. The Reichstag event was used to switch from what the rights of the public were. It was used to change it into more of a dictatorship, more of a totalitarian. Well, it was an authoritarian and totalitarian system, and the 9/11 was used in the same way. And the targets of the initial, what they said were the terrorists, were people who posed a threat of blowing up buildings and trying to do things to cause mass death and trauma and terror. But obviously we learned, some knew before it even happened, some learned slower, that it was a setup, that this country was hijacked by the people who were involved in PNAC, by the international bankers, and this was used to implement the police state that we see today. And there is no denying it is real, it is here, and it is not going anywhere until they get what they want. And it is frightening in a way to know that we have the NDAA, the Enemy Expatriation Act, the National Emergency Centers Establishment Act, the Presidential Homeland Security, what was that council they made up? Homeland Security Council, the Board of Governors. All these pieces of legislation and executive orders that are being used to take away our rights in the name of terrorism for safety, when the only ones perpetrating any real terror are the ones coming to us saying they have to take our rights away because of the terror.
Exactly.
It's absolutely absolutely mind-boggling, and I know a lot of people already understood that, but I told my dad before the show that I just wanted to kind of, in my own mind, speak it out, go back to the basics of this, how this is setting up, how it was set up. But
see, you mentioned When a Nation Forgets God. It's a book by Erwin Lutzer, Lutzer. It's $8.99, I think it is, on Amazon. You can buy it. I would suggest everyone grab this. Chapter 2 of this, it's always the economy, and this is what happened in Germany when the German economy was just out of control. Economic chaos basically spread through Germany after World War I. Why did it do that? Don't forget the Treaty of Versailles set that up. Okay, Germany was made to pay reparations. Well, they couldn't do it. I mean, and what happened was they began. And I'm really giving the short story here, but they began printing money like Americans doing. Their inflation was triggered by a huge increase in the money supply because of the heavy reparations assigned to Germany after losing World War I. That goes back to the Treaty of Versailles. Who set that treaty up? Well, it was the international bankers that set that up. So the German government, what they did was they chose to pay their debts by using the marks, Deutschmarks, printing as many as they needed just to stem the crisis, just ahead of the crisis. And what happened when that just didn't work, the government just kept on doing it like we're doing it now, and this hyperinflation just angered the German citizens. Well, once again, and this whole account is, I believe, it is in When a Nation Forgets God, but. This is what people have to learn, because I believe this is going to happen here. Post-war Germany, people who had fixed incomes were wiped out financially.
I think it's going to be worse here. They had some. I mean, back then people were civil, even though things like this, a crash was going on. People were generally civil. They wanted to help their neighbors, or did the best they could to do so. The most of the people. Today we have animals running the streets everywhere, from the richest areas to the poorest areas. If things go bad,
people are reduced to their lowest common denominator when in a crisis. When you're hungry, you've got no food, no clothes, no water. Look, in Germany, people
didn't set up concentration camps in Germany because of the lack of food or money. They went through their depression before that. They got their Third Reich established. But when that depression happened, I'm sure there were a lot of
wait a minute, think about
in crime, but it set up
Hitler.
Right, but there wasn't a bunch of civil unrest, people running around killing each other for, the population fighting its own people for scraps of food that it might be saved or stored up. You know what I mean? I think it would look a lot different here.
Well, I guess here is my point. Just as the Treaty of Versailles set up Hitler, and just as inflation, the rampant inflation, when you would go to work at 9:00 in the morning in Germany, and people would have to get paid every day. Their retirement funds were wiped out. Prices changed by the hour. In fact, one student. This is an account that I got from this book. One student at a university in Germany ordered a cup of coffee for 5,000 marks. He decided to order a second cup when his bill came. It was 14,000 marks, not 10,000. And he asked why. Well, it was because of the rapidly changing economy. Can you imagine the course of 1 hour?
I guess my point is
this is going to happen here.
But it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be. People here are more violent. We have a more out of touch society. People will panic. They have been,
of course,
zombified. And I'm missing the main point I wanted to make because it slipped my mind. But
okay, well, just hold on a second because this is my point. So that whole situation gave it to Hitler. That whole situation turned the country over to Hitler because Hitler promised economic stability. Hitler promised that they would take care of everyone and restore their retirement accounts. And
so, okay, you're saying
he was voted in. But see, so what I'm saying is, what we're going to have because of this, because of the economic crisis coming, we're not going to have a Hitler. We're going to have global government or global economic system. This is what's going to happen.
So you're saying they can step in before it really gets they can let the inflation start to go for a while enough to where before civil unrest starts, they could step in.
No, I'm not saying that. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
There's going to be a fire. The cities will burn. People will die.
Yeah, and that's the other aspect. That wasn't the case in Germany. It wasn't the case in 1929 in the Great Depression era. It wasn't, you know what I mean? We are living with a different kind of people, a different breed of humans now, where it is really, we have been brought down to our animalistic instincts.
Right.
Because of the lack of intelligence we have.
In 1929, or during the Great Depression, you had a greater level of self-sufficiency with the farms and all of that. Now you've got people living on top of one another in cities. You had some of that back then, not to the extent today. So yes, you're correct in that respect. However, you're going to have,
morals, and
well,
the lack of morals, the lack of care of human life, the lack of education, the lack of good parenting and love, the lack of a good foundation, and that's the majority of people, and that are around or able to probably do the most damage. I'm talking about if there's a civil unrest and you got your old people, like we'll say 70 and above, your senior citizens, and you got your middle-aged people, and then you got your young people, and then you got your teenagers or younger people, and then you got your teenagers. And look at each generation is worse. And look at how morally bankrupt my generation is. I'm going to be 30 this month, so
that's right.
Then
I agree.
You got your generation, which 22, 23 years older than mine, is much more. You guys are much more mature than our generation.
No, we're just old.
And it's not that. No, there's a difference. I mean, you can tell when a younger person or
who's running this country
are going to be mature. Versus
Bill Ayers. Okay, my generation, Bill Ayers. Well, not quite, maybe. I don't know, but
I don't know. We got way off topic here.
Well, no, but I think this is exactly what the topic is, because look, the Reichstag building in Berlin on February 27th, 1933, the Hitler's people at gunpoint sent a Dutchman named Marinus van der Lubbe to go through the building through a passage used for the heating system, set the building on fire. He was there at gunpoint, and it was gone. Of course, Hitler blamed, and now parallel this with 9/11. Hitler blamed the arson on a communist conspiracy.
But what was the guy dressed in? What was his capacity?
Well, he was. What do you mean capacity?
He was a mentally unstable or mentally challenged man found naked in an alleyway right near the building, the burnt down building.
Okay, all right.
He was what they would call retarded. Basically, is how I understand it.
But okay. But the point is this: the Reichstag building went up in flames. So Hitler blamed it on a communist conspiracy. Paul von Hindenburg at the time, he was the German president, of course. Hitler made him sign a decree for the protection of the people and the state. What happened? They began to curtail civil liberties, individual liberties, that allowed. Now, does this sound familiar? The Nazis to search homes without a warrant, to confiscate property and outlaw the meetings of groups that might oppose them. Isn't this interesting? A little bit. I mean, isn't this what we're seeing today? The same template that went on in Nazi Germany. So you take this, you take 9/11, 2001, compared to February 27th, 1933, the date of the Reichstag building fire in Berlin, and this is what we're seeing. It's happening a little bit slower today because of the information, I believe. The information, thanks to the internet and people fighting back, but it's the same. Look how far we've gone. We're talking. Can you believe this is America when we're talking about? Is it okay to snuff somebody out in the middle of a cafe?
Yes, that's I think one of the main points, if I didn't make it already, that we're even having this debate in the first place. That there's even debate or discussion on whether this is good or bad or legal or illegal. According to the Justice Department memos, though, contradicting what Eric Holder has now come out and said. And here, let's do this. Let's go to the White House's response to the question from Rand Paul.
All right.
And to be crystal clear, I want to be crystal clear about what Senator Paul is now asking. I'm going to read directly from the Attorney General's letter of today. He has sent a letter responding to this question. It was transmitted to Senator Paul within the last half hour or so. And here is from the letter, quote, "Does the President have the authority to use a weaponized drone to kill an American not engaged in combat on American soil?" The answer is no. The answer to that question is no. And that is signed. That is a letter that is signed by the Attorney General and was submitted to Senator Paul in his office. Now,
I promise.
As to the circumstances, as to when those drones could be used, would that be a 9/11 or Pearl Harbor style?
I think it's important to step back and say the issue of technology has nothing to do with the legal matters that we're discussing. The President has not and would not use drone strikes against American citizens on American soil. On the broader question, the legal authorities that exist to use lethal force are bound by and constrained by the law and the Constitution. The issue here isn't the technology. The method does not change the law. The President swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, and he is bound by the law. Whether the lethal force in question is a drone strike or a gunshot, the law and the Constitution apply in the same way. And
okay, now wait, let's back up here because let's think about this. So what Jake Carney basically just said is if we were it's the same thing to fly F-16s over Pakistan and Yemen and drop bombs on kids and suspected militants then, right? Because the use of lethal force is justified, obviously, because they're dropping bombs on these people.
Look, I think
you might as well.
It's a little bit inflammatory to say that they're dropping bombs on kids. Okay,
how many children? I can.
Are they targeting? Are they targeting children?
Children, but children are dying as a
right.
direct result, and they don't care. It's called the collateral damage.
I understand that, but we're talking about a specific course of action. I'm not talking about. Do you think that some terrorist, alleged terrorist, sitting in a cafe, you don't think there's going to be collateral damage from that? Of course there will.
Well, not if a trained and responsible police unit or tactical unit were on scene or able to make it on scene. But if you're talking about a drone strike,
but all that is
no.
Look, no, all that is just baloney. What it's going to come down to, at the end of the day, is whether the definition of someone not engaged in combat,
right. The definition of combat, the definition of belligerent, the definition of an enemy,
right, or the definition, or what is. This is Clinton, Obama, Bush. This is all wrapped up into one, and it's going to come down to semantics. Even the fact that the White House had to, or actually issued a letter.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's going to happen is, a patriot group suspected of going to nuke the Capitol or whatever, or the White House, or take the government back, take the country back, they're going to drone somebody on U.S. soil and say, look, they were. You can't tell right now, but they had bazookas and they had whatever this material. Yeah. They were going to hit the Capitol. So we had to do it.
You could have a gun rally like I intended to document on the weekend.
Right.
Now these people at the gun rally were engaged in actively taking on the government, but what if the Second Amendment rally was about not only the Second Amendment, but your right to keep and bear arms that opposes the governmental view? And what if that view is considered to be?
And do you realize that the number of letters to the editor of this town's paper came in saying, "Oh, it is such an obscenity for these men to be walking in the middle of town with loaded weapons."
Yeah.
First of all, who in the heck said they were loaded? Number one. And all of these arguments are diversionary. Believe me.
Yeah.
Because I go back to the book, When the Nation Forgets God. It's all about the economy. That's where it's at. All of this,
where the problems will arise from.
Well, not only that, that's the underlying issue here.
No, it's worse than that. The underlying issue is spiritual. You're talking as a nation, the health of our nation as a.
Well, of course it's spiritual.
Yeah,
of course. But I mean, how far do you want to go? Yeah, it's spiritual, but it's also. I mean, if we're talking semantics and we're talking law, you want to take it spiritual? Absolutely, it's spiritual.
Right. In two ways. One, because the people, not only the government has turned away from God, but the people have accepted that, and what happens when nations and people do that?
Bad
they're
things.
Judged. Right, and we are starting to see that. And
right.
That is the root cause, but. And everything else stems from that. But as far as on, keeping a healthy government, keeping the people of the nation able to work, having jobs available. I remember even being in high school watching the evening news around dinner time with my mom sometimes. And I remember the unemployment rate was like 4.3%. For I don't know how long. I just remember it was like 4.3 to 4.5. It would fluctuate in between there. And I couldn't tell you when that was, and I couldn't tell you when it changed. I really don't remember when it started going up, but I know it hasn't gone down.
Of course not. And let me add one thing back to the original discussion. Senator Rand Paul right now, as of 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on March 7th today, is saying he never received any letter.
I didn't think so.
Okay, well, no, I mean the letter that we're talking about.
Okay, the second one or the first one?
The two-sentence letter.
Okay, so it was published, but...
It was published, but never... according to Rand Paul,
maybe
we haven't received any letter yet.
Go into his junk email file.
You know, look, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's something... This is not what it appears to be. Please, you got to understand that.
It's so amazing to me to see the people in the world that are not aware of what's going on. And I'm going to just run through real quick some other headlines we're going to get into today. Japan and the U.S. have reached an agreement on a Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. We're going to be talking about that. Also, there is a new disease or a new illness, a break in New York of absolutely terrifying meningitis. In addition to that, a nightmare bacteria we talked about last night or the night before.
It was on the 5th, I believe.
Yeah, there's a new article about that. The CDC is warning of a rise in a nightmare bacteria. And also more on what you were talking about with Paul and McCain here. It's Paul fires back. Senator McCain and Graham think the whole world is a battlefield.
Do we have that clip?
That clip was not up yet. It was up on a embedded player, and I couldn't get it, but I'm sure we can get it before the show's over.
It's more of the same, though. All it is. It's just more of the same. It's them saying, "Oh, this is." Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I'm just. You know what? I'm just getting tired of this whole thing.
Wanted to read this piece of legislation or this story, and we're going to be taking your calls tonight. Also, maybe in the
third hour,
the second hour, or the third hour. Okay, Florida. This is out of Florida. This is humorous to me. Florida bill would require anger management courses for people who buy bullets.
Man, there's nothing humorous about that. You
know what?
You need
humorous to me because it's just so out of. It's just so out there. It's like reading a comedy crime novel.
Well,
stories anymore.
Look, the situation is this: they're attempting the federal government, this regime, and the international cabal of bankers, and I've got to throw them in there too. They're attempting to disarm the American public in advance of an economic meltdown, which is going to cause cities to burn, people to die, and that's what they have planned for the American people because they don't care about the American people. And see, there's no walking this back. There's no I'm
not talking about that. I'm laughing just out of I'm done being angry. I've been through those stages. I've been through the frustration, the anger, the rage, and the sadness. And
now it's time to get busy, not laugh. But
right, but I have to laugh or I'll get angry. And it's just not a good place to be when you can't control the situation beyond. I mean, what we're doing, I don't know what else to do. Well, if I had a solution, I would do it. But
people, and I understand what you're saying. I mean, people think that they're going to. People always say, "No, I'm not going to give up my guns, for my cold dead hands." Well, what happens when you get a SWAT team at your door and drone flying overhead, and you've got such a mass military force? 2,717 mine-resistant vehicles deployed all across the United States. The hardening, the bullets, the guns in the hands of this federalized Army paramilitary unit. Are you really going to say, for my cold dead hands? Because that will happen. Undoubtedly, it will happen. I see, but people think that it's not. People talk tough, but at that moment in time. So what we have to do, and pardon me for saying this, instead of laughing about this, what we have to do is be proactive a little bit to make sure we are not caught in that position. We're not caught in a position where we have to give up our guns. We're not caught in a position where we have to surrender our supplies.
Right. And But proactive, and I don't think we have to become proactive politically anymore. I don't think there's any use in it. It might be even a quicker way to get yourself killed, because who's gonna? If we even make it to 2016, is this president in 2016 gonna change anything? I mean, really, is anybody gonna believe? Is there gonna really be people that think when another man comes on the scene with promising new things?
No. We're not going to have. This is the end of the line.
It has to be, because how much further can it go? Because if it does go further, there will come a point where enough people wake up that are angry, that don't care.
All right, let me
start a revolution.
Let me tell you a little secret. I guess it's not really a secret, but here's what I think, and this is based on people giving me information, people that are rational.
Rational?
Yeah, that's my new word now. Rational, sensible people who are, in fact, attached to or have some in with the intelligence community today. All right? And when I have people like this telling me that you've got this Satanistic cabal of people, and yes, it sounds so outlandish, wrap me up in the white coat and take me away because I'm some conspiracy nut. Okay, but you've got this Satanistic cabal of people wanting so bad to get, and they've got their economic skin in this game, meaning the United States and across globally, basically, that they want to institute a one world economic system right now to replace the failing U.S. dollar and the euro and all the currencies that they're planning to crash. You see, when is this going to happen? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. The Satanists and these Luciferians, their New Year's is April 1st. And there's always, in the month of April after that, and the holy high days of these Luciferians, there are always Satanistic bloodbaths that take place, these sacrifices that take place. And why not make it on a global scale? Let's just, because they are at the end of the line. Now, if you think I'm ready for the loony bin?
No, I don't. The dates, I'm not sure if, April 1st, that could be something they celebrate in private. Who knows? But I'll agree with you on one thing. They can't have another, plane. They can't have planes hit buildings. They have to do something, 10 times bigger than the last. They have to do something on such a massive scale.
What could it be?
To paralyze the whole world.
Exactly.
So can you imagine how big of an event or how much
just pull the plug on the economy. Tank America, tank the dollar. What would that do to the euro?
You know what? Honestly, I think if the dollar crashed, I think the only unrest we'd see would be in America.
The domino effect.
I understand that, but I don't think. I know we.
Wait. So what are we seeing in Greece? Picnics and puppy dogs running around?
No, but because Greece is having an economic collapse, are we seeing it in America?
Okay,
no.
multiply that by 10.
Oh, I understand that.
And that's what's going to happen.
You might have the North American problem, but I don't think you'd have riots in Europe over an American dollar collapse.
No, but you're going to have riots in Europe over a euro collapse when nobody can buy food. And that's what's going to happen when the dollar tanks, when people tank the dollar.
And they could do this all simultaneously or in a close proximity of time.
Exactly. And that's what they're planning. And like I said, you've got, and folks, don't take my word for it. Please don't take my word for it. Because there are so many people don't want to go here. And I fought to go here. I did not want to even go here at all.
No,
because it makes you Looney Tune.
I was thinking today when I was doing dishes, and I was thinking when I was listening to uploading audio clips for today about when I used to tell you when we used to take road trips and I'd call Bush when he was president, I'd be like, "That he's a Nazi," and you'd get so mad. You remember that? Of course,
because I fell for the line.
And I couldn't say anything else but, how much of a Nazi he was. And he would get so frustrated. My dad would get so frustrated. Like, he doesn't know. What an idiot. He has no idea what he's talking about. And I didn't go further than that because I wasn't really involved or knowledgeable, but I knew enough
Well, there were times that you almost had road rash because I was going to toss you out the window. But everyone has got to get to that point in their life when they have to say, all right, what's really going on? Just stop. Everyone just stop what you're doing if you have the opportunity and take a good, hard look, and especially history. Because now, let me bring this up right now, right before the top of the hour. Folks, the Whiskey Rebellion. Y'all know about the Whiskey Rebellion? Okay.
What's that? Is it like the Tea Party but with whiskey?
No. Here's the deal. Back in and you guys can look this up. Back in 1791, just about 10, 15 miles south of Pittsburgh, about 10 miles south of Pittsburgh actually, is where it took place. The Whiskey Rebellion was a conflict that took place when George Washington was the president. Alexander Hamilton was actually like a what do I want to say? Oh goodness, a banker, the Treasury guy. Thank you. Okay, Hamilton. The Whiskey Rebellion was about the taxation of spirits, whiskey. The after the Revolutionary War. Are you serious? I forgot to unplug this.
That's me calling you just to mess with you.
Well, you know something?
No, I'm kidding. That's funny.
All right.
We're going to have to put Post-it notes up, like a 1, 2, 3 thing to do before the show starts. 1, mute phone. 2, unmute mic. Yeah. 3, turn on a computer. 4. No.
All right. No. Anyway, now look, right after the Revolutionary War, here's the Cliff Notes version of this. Right after the Revolutionary War, the veterans basically were farming and doing their farm stuff, and they realized that instead of carrying these big things of grain and stuff for trading and for bartering and for commerce, they could distill the grain, almost anything that they farmed, into spirits, whiskey, whatever the spirits would be. Well, the government at the time, Treasury Secretary Hamilton, said, "Hey, wait a minute. Let's put a tax on the whiskey produced here in the United States." Congress instituted a levy back in 1791, and the people around in this part of the country, from Pittsburgh down through I don't know, Kentucky, Tennessee, and all that, said, "Hey, this is baloney. We're not going to do this. We're not going to pay tax on this liquor." Well, and this is important to understand, even though people might think I'm a little off by talking about this. What happened was they sent tax collectors out. And the tax collectors were actually tarred and feathered. It was not pretty. It was really, these guys in this, us people over here in this part of the country, are the bitter clingers. We get rowdy sometimes. So we actually, our forefathers tarred and feathered these tax collectors. Well, Alexander Hamilton, as a central banker at the time, the chief of Treasury. Have we heard this before, by the way? Is this ringing any bells, folks? Alexander Hamilton said, "You know what? We're not going to put up with that." Convinced George Washington to gather the largest force ever since in fact, bigger than the Revolutionary War, of 13,000 men. 13,000 men, and brought them over here in this part of the country against this small group. We're talking about a very small group of people south of Pittsburgh, like a Tea Party meeting, if you will. 13,000 people, 13,000 troops, and effectively changed the course of history, and said, "Yeah, you're gonna pay this tax." Well, it was a kind of a big nothing. They arrested. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't a big nothing. They actually, there were some people killed and what have you. But the point I was trying to make is this: Washington got convinced via Hamilton, the banker, convinced the Congress to what am I to say? To stop or to allow this, but to Posse Comitatus. What am I trying? The Constitution, that is, and to allow government forces to attack their own people. So you had an army, the United States Army, attacking its own people in Pittsburgh or south of Pittsburgh because of some whiskey, tax on whiskey. That's what I'm trying to say. So what are we seeing here today? We're seeing the same thing. Kind of, sort of. But see, it was allowed. But what started it? It was the banker in Alexander Hamilton who tried and succeeded twice in the First National Bank of the United States and the Second National Bank of the United States.
Who had the duel? Who?
Aaron Burr and help me out.
Was it Alexander Hamilton or
Aaron Burr and I don't know. That's you're gonna have to go to chat for that.
Wouldn't it be nice if they still had those and people in Washington wanted to engage in that behavior? It could be duel at noon, you and me.
I can go over and slap you across the face with my gloves here if you want, but see, folks, there's nothing new under the sun. I guess that's what I'm trying to. If you do the research on the Whiskey Rebellion from 1791, you're going to see what Washington did, what Hamilton did. You're going to see that there was a massive military force against one group of people. That was an example, and guess what's going to happen today? There won't be muskets. It's going to be drones.
The Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We'll be right back.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilita Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
The U.S. Senate now has confirmed John Brennan to be the next CIA director. The final vote, 63 in favor, 34 opposed. Brennan is a former White House counterterrorism advisor, a former CIA deputy director, certainly a top architect of the Obama administration's drone program as well. He will replace the retired U.S. General David Petraeus, who resigned in November amid revelations of an extramarital affair. The Brennan vote follows an almost 13-hour filibuster by Senator Rand Paul. The Tea Party-backed Kentucky Republican blocked the vote while demanding an answer about those drone strikes, potential drone strikes on American citizens on U.S. soil. That answer came in a letter from the Attorney General just a little while ago, Eric Holder writing to Senator Paul. And while Senator Paul was talking to our own chief congressional correspondent, Dana Bash, he got to read the letter.
It's literally 3 sentences long, and he says that the answer to your question about can Americans be killed on U.S. soil, and the answer is no. Are you satisfied?
I'm quite happy with the answer, and I'm disappointed it took a month and a half and a root canal to get it, but we did get the answer, and that's what I've been asking all along, and it really is what the Senate should be about, advise and consent and find out what policies are. I have a feeling, since this was so difficult, that I never would have gotten this with routine letters to the White House.
All right, let's bring back Senator Wyden. He was the only Democrat to join Senator Paul's filibuster of John Brennan. Quick question, Senator, are you satisfied with the letter, the explanation from the Attorney General, these 3 sentences?
I think it is helpful, Wolf, and what he said is really consistent with what I went into on the floor of the Senate yesterday. In effect, the Holder letter now makes it clear if you're talking about a non-combatant in the United States, you cannot use lethal force, you cannot strike with a drone. What the earlier letter said, and it was what I went into yesterday, is that if you're talking about our country having to repel a foreign power, such as in the instance of 9/11 or something of that nature, you can use a military force. So we're continuing to root out more of the details about our policies, and I can tell you, Wolf, that this debate about drones, both in Washington, D.C. and in our country, is just beginning. There is a lot more work to be done, and I think you're going to see Democrats and Republicans here in the United States Senate. We kind of call ourselves the checks and balances.
Hold on to your seats. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Thursday, March 7th, 2013. What you just heard there before we came back was a clip of Wolf Blitzer confirming or reporting the confirmation of head of the CIA, John Brennan. Despite the filibuster attempt by Ron Paul yesterday, we all knew this was coming, regardless of what anybody said. I'm sorry, Rand Paul. We all knew this was coming, though, as he was the chosen one by Obama, and we don't say no to Obama now, do we? Or the people who run him, obviously, because he is their master, or the face of their masters at the moment, and to say no to them would be like biting the hand that feeds you, so we'll just leave that alone.
I got to tell you something, Joe. I'm going to paint my phone red. I love this because I've got like the super secret hotline.
Okay, if you have if you have a separate line, you can paint your phone red. But don't paint don't paint your phone red if it's just a regular phone. But if you have a secret phone line, you can probably paint it red and get away with it.
Well, I got to tell you this. One of my somebody I respect highly and a good friend and somebody who plugged into all of this information and plugged into the inner system of what's taking place and what's planned. And you have to understand, what's planned, it may not look like how it comes out. So in other words, I mean, just because they're planning to do something, it might not succeed in the exact manner in which they plan to do it.
Like how you plan to remodel the floor and then how it came out.
You were with me, weren't you?
No, I'm just kidding. That turned out nice.
That did turn out nice. That was a couple of years ago, and I'm still.
No, I know. I remember you talking about this on when you were on Alex+Jones' program. One of the times where you said that these people have contingency plans about.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they have, plan A, B, C, and D, and then they have a whole list of alphabet letters for each plan, which are all contingency plans,
And the other thing you have to that my source did say is, look, they've been doing this, they've been engaged in this process for generations. This is not something. These people think years and years and years and years ahead. But here's what the information I just got is this: the dollar. When the dollar collapses or when the dollar is engineered to collapse at that moment in time when they want to take it down. The entire world, because the entire world basically is the dollar is a backbone currency for the entire world. So the entire world's economic system is going to collapse with it. Perhaps not concurrently, but in a domino effect. I don't know. It's all going to go into ash at this roughly the same period of time. What they're going to do is bring, as I said earlier, is bring this solution of a global currency into play. But there's going to be
put some thoughts in my mind.
Wow, that's good.
The economy. I mean, I was thinking of this from a biblical perspective. The beast or one of the antichrist or what gets the head wound that comes back? What if it's the economy? The world economy crashes and comes back in the form of the RFID.
Are you all right?
Are you being serious?
Yeah. Yeah. You okay?
Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing that's impossible as far as the situational. We can speculate all day about the different ways that can happen, but
just look in the Bible. Are you talking about the identity of the Antichrist, or are you talking about?
No, I'm not talking about the Antichrist. I'm talking about. I'm not. And this is what I was saying. I didn't know. I don't remember exactly what it says. What gets the head wound? Is it the Antichrist that gets the head wound? Yes. Are you sure of that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Just grab the Bible.
I didn't know if it was the Antichrist or a part of his system, or not.
Okay. But that's kind of off topic. But I guess the point I was trying to make earlier is there's not going to be any running from this, the collapse. No one's going to be able to run to another country to get away from it. No one's going to. But the ultimate objective here is to force the people in the United States or in the UK or wherever you're listening to this broadcast. You will be made to use this new currency. And that why? Well, because and every purchase will be tracked, and every purchase made will be taxed. Tax is the operative word here. Once again, when a nation forgets God, it's all about the economy. Look at what they're doing. This is what it's all about. It's about
What do you mean? We're in a recovery. What are they doing?
Exactly, we're in a recovery.
We're creating jobs.
Watch how long this recovery lasts, and watch the surprised look on the people's faces on MSNBC and CNBC when everything falls and turns to dust.
You just reminded me of what I was going to mention earlier about the collapse of the economy and how our society would react to that. The video, A Madness of a Lost Society, I was going to say, look how people act on Black Friday from those videos. When they're going shopping, how they trample over each other, how they, we see fistfights and shootings because
and that's exactly what you're going to see.
And think about if their life is at stake, let alone, some new sneakers.
Hey, Grandma, you're laying on the floor. Sorry. But okay, and that's kind of the article that I wrote was inspired by the gentleman that I just spoke to. Think of that nightclub fire. Everyone's rushing to the exits, racing to the exits. Why? They want to get out. They're trampling others to save their own lives. This is what it's going to look like. There is not going to be any getting away from this. You are going to either you, the listener, are going to have to get out of the way of what's coming, or you will be trampled to death, or you will sustain some pretty severe, nasty injuries. And how do you get away? How do you get away from what's coming? You've got to prepare, and that's spiritually, practically. You've got to make sure that you have tangible things, food, ammunition, something to defend yourself with, precious metals, at least for the short term, because when the full system is in place, according to the source I have, the gentleman I respect a whole lot, once that system is in place, you're not going to be able to barter outside of that economic system. You're not going to be able to do business outside of that instituted economic system. And then I believe that would equate to the mark of the beast at that point. But there's a length of time, a stretch of time there, that they're going to be in the process of regrouping, and things are going to be taking place that are not. It's not going to be an automatic, Wednesday the dollar collapse, and Thursday, bam, we have a new system. There's going to be a period of time in there that we're going to have time to. We're going to have to survive, I should say, and we're going to have to, and this is what we're preparing for, is that time period. I don't know if that makes sense, but that time period where we're going to have to be forced, be forced to survive, not just trampling over one another to get out of the building, and certainly not doing a Black Friday on steroids at your local Walmart.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope that's clear. Maybe I'm not clear, but I hope that's clear. And I mentioned the Whiskey Rebellion only to the extent, or only for the fact that, you think that U.S. troops weren't used on U.S. citizens on American soil before? Absolutely. 13,000 strong against just a bunch of ragtag whiskey makers in southern Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania.
The good old days, what are they called? The bootleggers.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure there's
the good old days. I was going to say, the good old days, that was what, with Prohibition, that whole deal was 1930s. But anyway.
Yeah. How well did that work, Prohibition? But that's another story for another day. But all right.
I'm going to hit another audio clip here, and we're going to go to, let me play this. I got two more clips on Rand Paul's filibuster that are good. Here is Lindsey Graham. Here is what Lindsey Graham said about the filibuster.
And the theme of the night was protecting civil liberties.
If you're sitting in a cafe and somebody thinks you emailed your cousin in the Middle East and they think you're conspiring with them, you get it. You should be charged. You should be, imprisoned if they can make the charges stick. But they shouldn't just drop a Hellfire missile on your cafe experience.
A Milky Way bar gave Senator Paul a little energy boost during the dinner hour. He says he made many trips to the so-called candy desk on the Senate floor. He also got a special delivery of an apple and some tea from Senator Mark Kirk, who is still recovering from a stroke. Phil.
Anything to keep rolling, and roll he did. Now, his target was the White House. Has the President or the White House responded to this filibuster yet, Peter?
No, but Senator Paul says he would be very surprised if he didn't hear from the White House today. One interesting response we've heard already, though, is from another Republican, Senator Lindsey Graham, who thinks Senator Paul is on the wrong track.
The drone program he has utilized overseas, I think, has made us safer. This idea that we're going to use a drone to attack an American citizen in a cafe in America is ridiculous, and I think the American people need to understand the threat we face.
And there you have it, Mr. Lindsey Graham. What I'm going to do, let me look here for this and see if I have this here, because I will upload it right now and we will play it after it gets uploaded. Lindsey Graham talking about the NDAA bill, and I do have it. So I'll get that uploaded.
Right.
He goes on. He's on the floor, the Senate floor, and he says, "Yes, if you're with Al Qaeda or believed to be with Al Qaeda or their associated forces, we will, if we get our hands on you, if we don't kill you first, we're going to. You have no rights as American, no matter if you're an American or not."
Are we fighting a war, or are we prosecuting? What exactly are we doing here?
I just see, this is something that, and we don't, get into we try to stay away from politics as far as parties are concerned, because we know they're both corrupt. But this is an issue that is, and I've heard some people say this, but I'm starting to see it, I guess, that is transcending political parties.
I hope so.
I heard Glenn Beck, I think, say today that it was bringing people together on both sides. And he was talking about in the House of Representatives or wherever that was done last night, the filibuster. But I think it's opening eyes a bit further than that.
But is it time enough? Do we have time?
Well,
I think
it's time
beyond that.
For spiritual awakening. Political awakening, it's too late. It doesn't matter. But if it leads, the political awakening can lead to a spiritual awakening, then it's, there's always, as long as we are alive, we have opportunity. And
Well, of course, we can look. We have to fight. We have to survive. We have to live another day, get to the other side of what's taking place. We have to show up. We cannot surrender. Somebody had said, and I don't, and I'm not plugged in the chat right now, so I don't know, but somebody had said that it could have been even Glenn Beck saying, well, it's time to surrender. That's not in my bones. I mean, surrender to certainly to a higher spiritual power, of course, but not to surrender, just give up on the idea of America as delineated in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. No.
Right.
So we have to fight the good fight. But that doesn't mean that we have to be stupid either.
No, we can't be. We can't afford to be.
Of course not. No. And when I say by being stupid, I mean we have to quietly, be resolute, get our act together, get people on the right mental and spiritual and practical path to be able to withstand the coming events. If we don't do that, we have not done our job. And our job is to help people get on that path. I don't care if you are sitting alone in an apartment in New Jersey listening to this, or if you're listening to this in Afghanistan. And hello to those people, to the very fine men and women in Afghanistan who are listening. We've got to get together, and we've got to get on the right path. So
yeah, that's very true. I mean, but is that even feasible?
It is. It's not, but it's not going to be through the government. It's not going to be by writing or faxing your house member or your senator. It's not going to be feasible in that fashion. You're not going to find any government or political solutions to this with the crowd that's in there right now, because every one of them is compromised by either by a higher power of their own. And I'm not talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm talking about the God of greed, lust, and money. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, look, we cannot afford to give up this fight. It's too dear, because
the fight to survive and the fight to be better people. And I mean, that is two things that we have to always be working towards, no matter if we're in dire situations or we are in comfortable situations. We always need to be in prayer. We always, as much as we can, we need to be grateful as much as we can. We need to be loving and helpful as much as we can, as we're told to do. And that, I mean, even by doing simple things like that on a regular basis, you learn so much. And it's hard to explain some situations I've had and experiences I've had, but it's almost like you learn differently. You learn your understanding of certain things than you would when you have a better attitude, when you always have a positive outlook on things instead of a negative outlook. It's your perception. I mean, you can have a bad perception and be a negative person. There's lots of people, probably everybody knows like that. No matter what it is, it's always a big hassle, it's always drama. You can have the other side where it's not that big of a deal, and the people are okay. They are at peace no matter what is going on. And we have to get much more like that, especially if we're going to endure, because there's a difference between enduring physically and spiritually and mentally.
Well, it's interesting to say that, because we were talking earlier about the Reichstag fire in Germany and Nazi Germany and Hitler. It's interesting because if you look at what Hitler did, Hitler demanded this shift in educational philosophy of the schools at the time. That would no longer, the schools would no longer be concerned about whether a matter was true or false, or history was accurate, or whatever. What the values of children, the values of children had to, the children, the values that the children had at the time were derived from their parents, like today, much like today, but perhaps even more so back then. They had to be indoctrinated and understand that groupthink was much more important than the individual. That's what was going on in Hitler's Germany. What's going on today? It's the very same thing. Through psychological pressure, any student who did not agree with the agenda that was, this educational agenda that was made up, they stood out basically as an embarrassment and were ostracized, but it was done to ensure compliance. And see, so they've got us on the, and I did hear, I think Glenn Beck said, get your kids out of the public school system. Well, this is part of it, because the public school system is indoctrinating our kids to accept accept things that are not normal.
Yeah, and not only that, anything that you want to try to teach that is normal is outlawed, which makes it so much worse. Really, it makes it worse. Dad, do you have your studio up on the computer?
Yes, I do.
Because I uploaded that audio. Now I need to refresh my page.
Well, wait a second. Hold on. Don't do that now, because I'm.
As long as you have yours up, it'll be fine. That's all. I'm just making sure.
I do. Yes,
because I've done it before. All right. So I'll refresh the page and I can go to this audio.
Yeah, I think this audio clip, by the way, of Graham is very telling, to the point that everyone needs to hear this again. And folks, we'll get to your calls here shortly, but I got to tell you, this is really important.
And this is the right clip. I think it is. I know it's either one of two clips, either him being questioned about. I'm pretty sure it's the right clip, because I remember moving it from my other computer to my new computer, and this is when he talks about when you ask for a lawyer if you are detained. But here, let's listen. It's a minute 42.
Simply saying that you have the option to make sure that you can put intelligence gathering as the top priority. So this, as you've identified and talked about, is a very reasonable compromise. And as you know, my colleague from South Carolina, I would have actually liked to have seen this go further. But this is very important that we bring this forward.
And I would add that Senator Lieberman would have gone further than you, and nobody I respect more than Senator Lieberman, but trying to find a balanced way. So in summary here, 1032, the military custody provision, which has waivers and a lot of flexibility, doesn't apply to American citizens.
Talking about the
1031, the statement of authority to detain, does apply to American citizens, and it designates the world as the battlefield, including the homeland. Are you familiar with the Padilla case? That is a federal court case involving an American citizen captured in the United States that was held for several years as an enemy combatant. His case went to the Fourth Circuit. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals said an American citizen can be held by our military as an enemy combatant, even if they're caught here in the United States, because once you join the enemy forces, then you present a military threat, and your citizenship is not a sort of a get-out-of-jail-free card. That the law of the land is an American citizen can be held as an enemy combatant. That went to the Fourth Circuit, and that, as I speak, is the law of the land.
That's right. That is the law of the land, and that's what's reflected in this provision in the Defense Authorization.
That wasn't the right clip, but
well, you got
that was just good. Yeah, there was another. Guys, if you want to find it, just search Lindsey Graham. I want my lawyer, or Lindsey Graham. Shut up. That's what it's called. And he talks about this. Somebody asked him a question. What do you do if you detain somebody who is wanted, or if you capture alive a person wanted of, suspected of terrorism? And he says, you tell them, you don't get a lawyer. You shut up. You're an enemy combatant. We want to talk to you about why you decided to join Al-Qaeda. But at the same time, now John McCain and Lindsey Graham, this is why it's so important, especially these two. It's always these two advocating the most against Al-Qaeda, except they're the two most outspoken Republican senators on funding the rebels in Libya, in Egypt, and in Syria. Why is that?
Well, would you expect anything different if they're...
They're openly funding Al-Qaeda while saying if you are... But no, this is way over the top. If you go back through, go to Libya clips, go to Syria clips, go to Egypt clips, go to all these clips. They're the two most outspoken every time on funding these people, Republican senators. They're also the two most outspoken on the NDAA, on the drones, on attacking Rand Paul, on the other side, like the neocon side. It's absolutely mind-boggling. I don't understand. I don't understand how they get away with it. First of all,
well, look, laws.
I mean,
we're talking about a law now, essentially.
No, I'm talking about the behavior of when you have a senator like John McCain, and he's a senator of your district. Okay, now he probably gets a lot of local news coverage. He probably gets a lot of regional news coverage. We don't have regular stories about John McCain. We have regular stories about people who are politicians in our area. Now, when you hear him speak, he's been obviously John McCain's been in office for a while, and Lindsey Graham too, and they have contradicted themselves so many times. I mean, how do these people keep getting reelected? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like Obama getting reelected. It's like Bush getting reelected. It just, I can understand Bush to a better extent because people were still in the middle of coming out of the fog of 9/11, but a lot of people were awake at that point. But Obama getting reelected makes absolutely no sense to me. And I'm not that, I've seen a few presidents that I remember. I remember Clinton pretty well, at least the end of his presidency. I remember Bush, obviously, too. I remember Bush 1 a little bit, especially during the Gulf War. And I know Obama. Now,
are there some listeners out there, by the way, that are feeling a little old right now?
I thought Bush 2 was the worst president in the history of the world, or this country.
I don't think you didn't have the pleasure of living through Carter.
Then I started to think it was Obama, obviously, and then I got a better understanding of what the real power is behind the presidency. They determine things because if you go against them, we saw John F. Kennedy as an example, you will be dealt with, and I'm sure that's a big motivator, especially when you have a cushy job and you're portrayed as the head of a nation. But anyway.
Well, going back to this, looking at this in a big landscape, sometimes if you get too close to the picture, when you're looking at a picture, you get too close, you can't see what it represents. And I think the bottom line here is, we signed, or we had the Declaration of Independence in the Constitution by our founding fathers. They emphasized that freedom was rooted in the faith of God. Franklin offered, at the time now, this famous acknowledgement of God's sovereignty in the affairs of all men in this country. But today, and I think this is important because today there's a debate as to how Christian the founding fathers were, but I think we can agree, and I would hope that everyone can agree, that research to this point has shown that most were Christians, most had a
some
strong
in name
belief,
only,
but some had a very strong belief in God. Whether they were individually Christian or not, there's still a general consensus of theism that the belief in God existed. So whether or not Christians, okay.
There were some deviants in there too that are looked on as good men in history. When that's not the case, but
see, and I think this is important because when we look at what we are given in the form of this country, we were given these unalienable rights, or unalienable, if you will, rights. Two separate meanings, by the way. They were considered absolute. That stems really from man's creation from God, and by God, that is. So this is the root. I mean, this is the base of this country. Man is accountable to an authority higher than every other man around. I mean, well, in all men, we've got to recognize.
But you just hit on something. Okay, how many actual people in the United States walking around on a daily basis that you see think that way? And this is a huge. This is very important as to what the condition of our country spiritually is, because I heard it explained a certain way, and I don't know if I read it in the Bible or I think it wasn't. No, it wasn't in the Bible. I think it was in the. I don't know if it was in the. Anyway, it talked about there's a timely judgment for everything and everyone, but it talked about God knows how to judge people, righteous and unrighteous, and He'll leave the unrighteous alive a long time. It says, but the person who doesn't fear God are the people that will be removed before their time. And it said, I don't remember what verse it is, but it said in a way like it's not the one, like you said. You used to tell me the difference or the opposite of love isn't hate; it's indifference.
That's right.
And when you don't fear God, when you have not even, I mean, He'd rather you hate Him than you not acknowledge Him and not worry about Him. You know what I mean?
Of course, and people are walking around with this massive indifference to a higher power, with this massive indifference. And that's even that's a huge problem. That's much worse than even just having a spiritual problem inside of a church body. Well, but think about how far we've come, and then we'll close this out. But the Christian view at the time this country was founded, everybody had this moral and internal guidance system, for lack of a better term, and the currents of this belief, this it was
inherent.
They were so strong.
It was inherent because that's how their family talked and acted and taught them. That's how everybody's acted, and it's because it was a different time, a different.
But I think we need to see. People say, "Well, what can I do? What can I do?" Well, I believe personally, study what the founders of this country did, what the signers of the Declaration of Independence did. Study their mindset, understand what their mindset was. And it's not that hard to do. You can find that, and of course we try to explain that, but adhere to that and model yourselves after their actions, because we are in if not the same, we have a much greater threat. And believe it or not, where's the threat coming from? And this is the other thing that people are missing, I believe. And I want to, again, give my thanks to my source. The major threat, where is it? If you had to pick out and address anywhere in this world, or an area anywhere in this world, where is the threat coming from? The threat of economic collapse, the threat of, what's the impetus? Where does our enemy reside? In any city, in any block, in any area, where does our enemy reside? It resides in London, in the United Kingdom, in that 1 mile area where all the banks and all of the power structures are.
So you're saying all the evil is in London?
No, I'm saying that the evil that is about to be bestowed upon us.
The global.
The
this is where the global money control is.
Everyone should be and I look.
London and New York is its little brother or whatever, and then you have
everyone should be looking very, very closely at London, at that city within the city in London, in the UK. That where the power of the Queen or the British dynasty resides, the British Empire resides, because that British Empire that was once a threat back in the 1700s is going to become a threat again. And see,
we have a financial collapse. We can't control if it happens or not.
What do you mean, you and I?
Right. Us, all of us, our efforts combined. I don't know if we could control the outcome of that. I mean,
that's right. The game is rigged. We're playing the game. It's coming.
So what do we do? Because we know it's going to happen. We just don't. It doesn't matter about. I mean, it does matter to a degree about where it's coming from, but if it's going to happen, regardless.
What do? We get out of the way. There's a number of things we have to do. We got to prepare. Because, once again, this is not going to be an overnight thing. This is not going to take a day to resolve, to go from a dollar-based currency to a global currency that's basically digitized or digital, if you will.
Yeah.
There's going to be a period of time in there. So what we're trying to do is prepare people for that period of time. Once you wake up on a Friday morning maybe, or a Monday morning or whatever, and you find out that the world has changed because the dollar has collapsed, because people have collapsed the dollar on purpose, and the very people who have done this are now on their islands and fortresses, or in their underground bunkers somewhere, or wherever they're at. They're gone and plotting for the restructuring now into a global currency. You damn well better understand, I want to know who's behind this. I want to know who's behind the suffering of my family. I want to know who looted my 401k if I had one. I want to know who
forgive them?
No. So I want to know who my enemy is. I want to know who's acting to destroy me. I mean,
I'm giving you a hard time with that question. I mean,
because I'll tell you.
No, but we need to. I mean, this is part of what used to get pumped up, and it's understandable. You're talking about the theft of not only your money and material wealth on earth, but you're talking about the theft of your livelihood, your family, and yes, it's
souls of our children, souls of our children and our grandchildren, the theft of the souls. Right. These people are harvesting, and you might think it's crazy.
There's a method. I mean, that can be. You talk about preparation a lot. That can be the souls of the children can be saved. The souls of the young people, if they're taught right, if they understand. And I guess that is the biggest problem, is that they're being so misguided that normal is something they view as what we see as normal is something that is seen in most of young society as absolutely outrageous, or
But I guess my point is too, you have to know who the enemy is in order to attempt to mitigate the damage at the very least. So,
and then paying attention to the chat room that much, but I see it's Satan in big capital letters with exclamation marks, and I mean it is, but to a large.
By the way, that brings me.
The influence is out of our control. We are our own worst enemy.
Church lady.
In our control. We are, at least in my case, I'm my own worst enemy.
Well, yeah, and you are, and I am too, and we all are to a large extent. But I guess the point I'm trying to make right now is people are asking, do we just give up? Because, my goodness, look, we're not. It's going to happen anyway, and we can't really make a difference. And it's just too hard. So I might as well just watch TV until it collapses, and then what am I going to do then? And I only have a week's food, and that's not going to be enough. So the heck with it, And I can't. I didn't buy a gun, and I can't certainly fire at the 13,000 George Washington troops outside. No, get a grip. Get a grip. Understand where you're at. Get your head right mentally. Get right with God. Identify the threat so you can mitigate the threat. Identify who's behind it and what's behind it. Anticipate what's coming. Anticipate and act accordingly. Wisdom is the ability to anticipate future actions. A very, very fine gentleman told me that.
Well, that's not bad advice. And I'm going to move on here to a headline I mentioned earlier. I'm going to play a quick audio of this and what it means. This is about the trade agreement. Japan and U.S. reach agreements on auto exceptions in the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Local media reports have said today that Japan and the United States have agreed in principle that the U.S. auto industry will be able to keep tariffs on automobile imports for at least 5 to 10 years, with 2.5% for passenger cars and 25% on trucks. This is to be
the
part of.
significance.
Yeah.
Right.
So
significance of this. Remember Gerald Celente.
I'm going to read this.
Wars, currency wars, and the shooting wars.
I'm going to read this first paragraph. Yeah, the rest of this first paragraph. Then play an audio clip that better explains it. But you're right. And this is important. Okay, so 2.5% for passenger cars, 25% for trucks, and this is to be part of the TPP, the Free Trade Agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Free Trade Agreement, to which Japan is expected to announce its entry as early as March 13th. And here is an audio from Russia Today on the Trans-Pacific Partnership could endanger millions of patients.
All right, NAFTA on steroids. That's what the phrase many insiders use to describe the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a multinational trade deal negotiated completely behind doors, from potentially sending American jobs abroad, possibly rolling back regulations on big banks and curbing your freedoms online. The TPP's effects on your daily life could be far-reaching. RT's Megan Lopez shows us another example of how this deal puts companies above people.
For almost 3 years now, the U.S. has been participating in closed-door talks with 10 other countries, all in the hopes of arranging the biggest trade agreement in world history, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The trade talks are so large and so expansive that the TPP is expected to affect more than 1 billion people worldwide. Governments from the U.S. to Australia to Malaysia claim the agreement will help get rid of trade barriers. Now, most of the talks are still secret, but according to a new report by Doctors Without Borders, it actually provides evidence that the TPP could make it harder for people around the world to get much-needed medicine. And it all comes down to 6 E's. First, the TPP expands the range of patents, meaning that it lowers the standards for them. Pharmaceutical companies could then make slight modifications to current drugs and re-patent the formula, keeping generic drugs out of the market. Next up, the length of patents would be extended by at least 5 years. A normal drug patent falls in the range of 20 years. Under the TPP, the extra time would compensate for delays in the regulatory process, but it would also prevent cheaper versions of the drug from making it to market. It also allows the elimination of many of the safeguards against patent abuse, including a process companies use to contest overreaching ones. And that enables numerous forms of patent abuse. It also requires participating countries to condition market approval on patent statuses, setting up even more legal hoops for generic pill companies to jump through. Our 50 of medical costs incurred by the TPP is enhanced. According to Doctors Without Borders, the agreement would enhance the company's control over clinical trial data, so generic drug manufacturers can't recreate the pill during that time. Finally, the TPP agreement would allow for strict enforcement of intellectual property rights, not just regarding pharmaceuticals. So there you have it, the 6 C's of the TPP, when it comes to medical costs anyway. To the average American consumer, the idea of cheap generic brands is less of a necessity. But to third world countries around the globe, generic medicine can be the difference between life and death. So it's more than free and open trade that lies in the balance of these negotiations. It's the lives of millions of people looking for a way to afford the medicine that could ultimately save their lives. In Washington, Megan Lopez, RT.
And you heard them refer to the Trans-Pacific Partnership as NAFTA on steroids, and that's really what it is. And you know, I wrote an article about the North American Union a while ago and the SPP agreement that was signed by Bush, Calderon, and Vicente Fox. We had the NAFTA agreement, which was brought in thanks to Newt Gingrich when he was Speaker of the House, with the GATT, NAFTA and GATT. And what these have done, these partnerships, what they call them, partnerships, have done nothing but remove jobs from America. As they said, the opposite would be the result.
The whole thing about this is we're moving to a global economy, or we're actually moving more toward that global. We've already established that this is a global economy, global commerce. So the importance of this is what? the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Okay. Well, we have now, this is the 16th round of the Trans-Pacific Partnership in Singapore talks right now. And in the 16th round, negotiations are underway this week and next week in Singapore. And Consumers International is participating actively, or at least actively as they can. This is the first, I'm reading their advertisement here. Let me go back to the original article, because this is a branch of the original article. But this is what they say is the United States in 2008. This was an agreement between a few countries. I think Switzerland and let's see. Here it is.
Well,
Singapore. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, no, I'll just say this. Okay, starting on this past Wednesday, there were negotiators from 11 Trans-Pacific Partnership countries met with more than 300 global stakeholders. That's what they call them, at an engagement event hosted by the government of Singapore. All right, so we're okay there right now. I mean, it's all right.
Yeah.
All right.
So in 2008.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, New Zealand, Chile, Brunei made a deal. Singapore and also Singapore made a treaty called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. In 2008, it was changed. The following year it was changed in 2009 when the United States declared its intention to enter the agreement and to change its terms. And they have changed significantly to the benefit of the United States and the determinant of Singapore and its partners in the region.
Right.
That's what this article says, which led me to this. I'll post this in the chat room. This, I don't know, this looks like a brochure, an advertisement.
Well, if you go to USTR, United States Trade Representative.gov, you can find out all about this Trans-Pacific Partnership leadership. Their statements they've got a resource center there, and what we're looking at is the architecture.
PDFs in our resource library we have to put up on this.
Right. But what we're looking for, or what we're looking at right now, is the architecture for and when this global currency does come into effect, when there's going to be this global economy, you're going to have the world split up into trade zones. And this is kind of establishing the foundation for these trade zones.
Trade zones. That's crazy as free speech zones. What are you talking about?
Well, hey, this is what it is, and that's important. I really believe that this is.
No, I know. It's bad. I mean, what we're going to see from this is more job shipment, more of giving up of our, I don't know, what are they called? Manufacturing. Technical jobs, more of our all over. We saw this with NAFTA, getting the short end of the stick. Now, that other article referred to this as being different, but I don't see how it'll be any different. And this does tie into the dollar and how...
Absolutely it does.
Yeah, and how the dollar is affected. As we get involved with these other countries, we get involved with their economies and their imports and exports. And
But folks, this goes back to the 60s. This goes back to the Department of State, the U.S. Trade and Investment Diplomacy. It goes back to the Trade Expansion Act of '62. Congress called for the president to appoint a special representative for trade negotiations to conduct trading between us and other countries, of course. This you're looking perfectly right down into this hole that at the end of this hole is you're seeing the foundation being laid for what is coming today. In '63, Kennedy created the office of the Special Trade Representative, STR, in the executive branch. This was the precursor for this global governance here. In the 70s, Congress vastly expanded the responsibilities.
Yeah. And I'm going to just say this and I'm going to go back to a clip, a Judge Napolitano to take us out to the second break, talking about the filibuster, and that's all we have we'll stop talking about the filibuster tonight. But the North American Union is something that we talked about. We know there's AFRICOM. Now, AFRICOM where did that come from? Has that been around forever? Has that region been referred to as AFRICOM forever? No, this goes back to something further, which is it goes back to Bush. It goes back to the 4 regions of the world. You have Asia, the European Union, the North American Union, and I forget what the.
Well, this was an initiative under Bush, I believe.
Yeah,
I believe it started sometime in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, and you have the Global Strategic Partnership Alliance. You have all these backdoor UN-supported non-governmental organizations out there, and that they sign on to these treaties through these other organizations, and then you're marginalized. Now, we'll see people who come against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We'll see in the next terrorist manual we see, that'll be listed in there. If you are against, international organizations and treaties and such, as it already does about the North American Union. If you mention the North American Union, you are a conspiracy theorist.
Of course.
And it's just, you'll be marginalized. But this is going to do nothing but hurt our overall economy, our overall GDP, and our overall jobs numbers. And they're going to lie up and down, left and right, back and forth to drill it in your head that that's not the case, just like NAFTA and GATT. But you'll see, it'll be exactly the opposite of what they say.
The only person with any grain of guts was Lou Dobbs to point out the North American Union, just as an aside. I just want to say that. So go ahead.
Here's Judge Napolitano. We're going to play this, go to break, come back, take your calls, and I think, yeah, here we go.
Right now, a lot of attention is on our nation's drone policy. After Kentucky Senator Rand Paul filibustered, spoke for nearly 13 hours in that rare move, focusing on what he says is the Obama administration's refusal to rule out the possibility of drone strikes on U.S. citizens. Paul saying no American should ever be killed by a drone on American soil without first being charged with a crime and found guilty by a court. Joining us now, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. I know you have some pretty strong feelings about the drone program.
Well, Senator Paul and I are on the exact same page. He and I have discussed this many times. We did not discuss how one stands and stays awake and lives as a normal human being for 13 hours on the well of
and that wasn't even the record. Strom Thurmond did it more than 24 hours.
I don't know how Strom Thurmond did that, because they have to stay standing and they can't leave for the normal things that we would all want to take a break for.
Yeah.
But in terms of the essence of what he did he succeed in preventing John Brennan from becoming the head of the CIA? Probably not. There's enough votes to confirm him, and that vote will be today, tomorrow, or Saturday. But I don't think that was his real goal, John. John, I think his goal was to open up the eyes of the American public to the attitude of the White House, which seems to be, we can kill whoever we want, how we want, without revealing it to the public, without even revealing it to Congress, and we're not even going to answer Senator Paul's letter about how we got here historically, legally, and constitutionally. Because the Constitution couldn't be clearer. If the government wants life, liberty, or property, it must take it through due process. Due process can mean a declared war against an enemy combatant, but it cannot mean killing a guy, an American or not, sitting in a cafe having lunch with his 16-year-old son.
We use the drone program, obviously, in places like Afghanistan. We've taken out a number of terrorists in there and in North Africa as well. Is it such a slippery slope to imagine, drones at some future point being used on the streets of, New York City?
Well, I think it is for a couple of reasons. When this question was put to the Air Force about 6 months ago, the Air Force responded by saying, we expect to have applications for 30,000 drones in the U.S. in the next 10 years. The vast majority will be owned by state and local police. Will they be used just for surveillance, or will they be used offensively? And more interestingly, John, when Bob Mueller, the director of the FBI, was asked if drones can be used to kill people, he said, ask the White House. When John Brennan, the soon-to-be director of the CIA, was asked the same question, he said, ask the White House. When the Attorney General was asked that question, he hemmed and hawed and went back and forth with the great Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, and eventually, after much hemming and hawing, said no. But it's very, very dangerous that this is not a clear and crystal and pristine and immediate No, of course not. This isn't Stalin Russia. And don't do this.
And he said, I thought I made that clear after a lot of hemming and hawing.
He didn't make it clear. Senator Paul has made it clear to the public that the White House is contemplating these type of murders, and the White House and anybody in the government who thinks they can do this needs to be restrained and needs an eye-opener. Yesterday they got it. But should he have to suffer his body and soul through 13 hours of standing and, let's face it, not going to the bathroom in order to open up the country's eyes? That's the situation we're in today.
The brave new world, not that far away.
No, not that far away at all. When Aldous Huxley, author of Brave New World, and Orwell wrote these things, we figured it's science fiction. Now it's here.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, always good to get your take. Thank you.
Pleasure. Pleasure to you too, Mrs. Babin.
Thank you, Judge.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world. Folks, let me tell you about our sponsor. Great sponsor, great people. I'll tell you, I love these people, Carl and Lori Gramland. They're solid earth couple up in British Columbia. You thought I was going to forget, didn't you? No, of course not. They have Granlund Firearms, GranlundFirearms.com. That's GranlundFirearms.com, Granlund Firearms of British Columbia. Visit their website. Go to HomelandSecurityUS.com. Click on the icon in the right-hand column there. It'll take you to the home of Granlund Firearms of British Columbia. There you will find Carl and Lori Granlund, their website. They've got the numerous, beautiful pictures, by the way, of British Columbia. They've got a current gun stock list, and it's pretty expansive, actually. And yes, you can buy them in the United States, or if you're listening in Canada, certainly you can just have them shipped to where you're listening. My favorite, however, men's black T-shirts, I suppose, with a deer head, $20. Can't beat that, plus shipping. Camo caps, pretty cool, with the Granlund Firearms logo for $15. I don't wear the camo caps, but I got to tell you, I've seen them on a couple of my friends. Excellent. And just click on the T-shirts and hats link for additional information. That's Granlund Firearms. Oh, by the way, you got to pick up a copy of Carl's book. It's a great book, good reading, especially if you are a hunter or you like stories of the outdoors. It's a terrific book. Treed Beyond the River, 2nd edition. A lot of pictures. It's about cougar hunting on Vancouver. Yeah, I can't even talk. Tiger, big cats. Cougar hunting on Vancouver Island, and it's a great read. So you can even call them 250-286-9996. Ask for Carl, ask for Mr. or Mrs. Gramlin, and talk to them. Tell them what's on your mind as far as your hunting, sporting supply needs are.
Doug Hagmann, one guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 3 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. That's hour number 3 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. This 7th day of March 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann, and we're going to be taking calls the third hour. Joe, are you there by chance?
I am still here, but I do have to go, ladies and gentlemen. So you're going to field the calls, and I hope you don't get anything
I can't handle
to argue with what I was saying. So
not a problem.
No, but you guys have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow, and good luck and have fun.
All right. Thanks, Joe. And that, folks, Joe's got a personal situation where his wife had minor surgery, or not minor, but surgery, and he's just going to go pick her up, and everything's fine. Everything's fine. So you can save the emails. Everything is fine on that with that regard. So it was just we kind of thought she was going to get released today, but we didn't know. So we were playing it by ear, and now it's that's what's going on. And I don't think I'm talking out of school, because I think Joe mentioned, I know he mentioned that situation earlier in the week. But we'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to open this hour with phone calls, your phone calls. We're going to go right to the 615 area code. At 615, you're on with Doug Hagmann.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Mr. Hagmann?
I can hear you fine.
All right, buddy. Yeah, man, I know your son just left, but have you guys been following all the rituals? There was one at the All-Star game with Kesha. I mean, it was sickening. I was trying to work during it, and I work at a restaurant. And, yeah, man, I mean, it was just complete Illuminati, in your face, red and black clothing, makeup. I mean, you see the eye in the background and the triangle and then the all-seeing eye above it. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't. I didn't see it. I'm not even sure. When you say All-Star Game, I'm not even sure what. I probably should know what that is, but
it was. No. It's for the NBA All-Star Game, and I was going to try to give it to you at a sooner time, because I do a lot of my own journalism and investigations. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. No one in the media covered it, not even the alternative media. But I mean, it's granted. Alex+Jones, you, Drudge Report, you guys can only cover so much. So with all these people pouring in so many tips a day, it's really hard to see through those and find the important ones. I know you know that, but my point with that was, go ahead.
This was in February, right? We're talking about the game that just passed this past February?
Yes, sir. And,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. And even before that, there was the Super Bowl, and the day after, I don't know if you saw this, but Illuminati was the #1 search term for that day. And it just kind of reminded me that, even when everything seems so dark and evil, that, what the devil tries to use for evil, God turns for good. So, he is giving people the choice to choose between good and evil. And, I tried to release that story on a local radio station here in town, but, they denied me, of course, and called me tinfoil hat, which to me is not really a good argument, because if you were able to actually defend your position and, they asked me, they said, well, if you saw this Illuminati symbolism, why did you keep watching? And I was like, well, because honestly, I just wanted to be able to expose it and break it down and, inform others who probably weren't aware or could have had too many drinks and didn't even notice. So, but yeah, I just I thought that was pretty crazy. And like I said, everything that the devil is trying to use against us, you got to remember that God's still in control in the end. So.
Oh, right on, man. I appreciate that, and thanks for bringing that to my attention. I just kind of quickly searched a couple of sources, message areas I've got here, and I see that there was some symbolism that did take place there. There were the dancers behind Neo's performance. Is that how you pronounce it? Neo's? I don't know.
Yeah, Neo. Well, that's the rapper. I didn't see that one, honestly, but if you can find the Kesha one, literally, I think it wasn't the song Die Young. I know that's the Illuminati symbolism song, but it was one of her songs similar to that, just the negative philosophy of, drinking yourself to death and partying like tomorrow's the end of the world. And it was just, man, honestly,
I did hear about this.
Yeah, man, I asked a group of older people, that I live in the South, so they're Christians, and I said, I just can't believe what the world's coming to today. And they shook their heads in disbelief when they saw it too, and it was playing all around the restaurant. And there was an atheist coworker of mine who's in her probably 50s, late 50s, and she's very intellectual, so I enjoy debating her. But long story short, she was like, "Why do you even care if these girls are, shaking their chihuahua out in front of all these people and, doing all these nasty things?" And I mean, she doesn't have children, but I told her, you know, do you want your kids to grow up in a society like this? You know, if you were to have kids, is this the kind of culture that you want them to be immersed in? Because, in my opinion, that's so negative. I mean, you got to really look for the positive in the times when the trials are so deep, you know. So I just see the quickening happening like you guys do. And, you know, I was the one that called it a couple months back. It's 12-12-12, and there was a guy before me, two guys before me that one was an African-American individual, I'm pretty sure, who has a show on one of these networks, and he had a great talk about God, and then the next guy was talking all about the stars aligning and how the devil tries to contort symbols and make them his, like the stars, even though God created them, try to destroy God's creation and, you know, basically mock it. It was the night you guys had Lindsey Williams on. And,
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the last time you had him on back in December, but long story short, I proposed the idea that you should start your own little channel, just like the Freedomizers and all these other guys out there, and, you know, maybe we could have a competition, get the viewers to put it together, and, I mean, just see where it goes from there. And on with that, I heard, you know, when you were on with Alex, you were talking about supercharging, and he was talking about the other day eventually creating a 24-hour network with all of his reporting staff and team that he's been building over the years. So I don't know if there's other people. I'm sure there are. I listen to your show, you know, every couple of days, but along with, you know, Sons of Liberty, Catherine Albright, and Alex, and a few other the mainstream guys, but coast to coast, of course. But yeah, I don't know. Do you see that as being something in the future? I mean, you wouldn't have to pay us all, but if we could all align as patriots and have a contest and get this network up and going, and, you know, push your name out further.
Yeah, you know, we've got a very strong allegiance to the Christians United Broadcasting Network, CUBN, Christians United Broadcasting Network. Very strong allegiance to them, to that entity. Where I mean, the producer there, the owner there, has really done so much for us. But yeah, I mean, I think that to bring others into the fold, or to, you know, keep the word out, whatever we need to do, we got to do it. Okay, whatever to educate people en masse, we have to do it as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible, with quality and, you know, with. So yeah, I mean, yes, I can see it. I can see it taking place, and I had briefly spoken with Alex+Jones about this, and so there are some things in the works in the background. Hopefully, it'll get going forward, something to that effect, and certainly we can talk off air sometime about it.
Yeah, for sure. Just to give you a background, I'm actually interning around the radio stuff right now, and what I'm finding at my local university is we have a great department and all the money you can imagine, and, you know, all the production equipment needed, but everyone is afraid to touch the real topics. So, you know, even the newscasts for public access at the university, they don't even think it's patriot minded. They don't even think about these bigger issues that we talk about every night on programs like yours, but I just figured that if we could find a way to beat around the censorship and continue to grow the operation that you've already created and Alex has created and others. So, yeah, man, if we could really just get on that,
it'd be good.
I'm a very motivated person, so I would love to maybe dictate that or help take the lead on that project. Or
well, I'll tell you what, why don't you do this? Why don't you just go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, send me an email, just click on my name, and then email box will pop up with whatever your email client is, and then send me an email. In the subject line, just put caller from Thursday, and I'll grab your email, and we can talk off air about this.
Okay,
anything
yes,
else
sir.
before?
So call her Thursday, and then it's just Doug Hagmann at the Homeland Security, yada, yada, yada.
You got it, right. It's right off of our website, HomelandSecurityUS.com. Anything else before we cut you loose?
No, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
All right, man, thanks. Great call. And again, you know, we have to stick together. We have, but he brought up an important point here with respect to the censorship. There is this. Oh, I don't know, what is it out there? This reluctance. This you start looking at the bigger picture. You start talking about things like the Illuminati or things like the Council of 300, Council on Foreign Relations and Trilateral Commission. You start talking about that. Even on a Glenn Beck venue, or in a Glenn Beck venue, or even in a especially in a Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh, not to point fingers at them, but to just describe the commercialized venue that they're in. You cannot do it. And when you get on coast to coast, that's a different audience, that's something totally different altogether. Although they do a great job with a lot of their guests talking about this very subject. But I think that, and people might say, man, you've really gone off the rails because you never, ever talked like this before. What the heck? In fact, I did have somebody say it today. What happened to you? And I just said, look, you just start researching things and you follow things to their ultimate destination or their ultimate route and start connecting the dots. And it doesn't take much. Go to the library. You don't have to do it on the internet. Go to the library. Get some books. Read some books. Actually, physical books, that you can hold and touch and whatever. By the way, I want to thank Lucy. Lucy for recommending a book, Hitler's Cross, by Erwin Lutzer. I do have a copy of that, Lucy. Thank you very much. But I recommend that to all people. And I want to thank Marianne for providing us with that copy for the studio. It's called Hitler's Cross. It really gets into how the cross, the Christian cross, was used as a symbol of the Nazi agenda. And inside, it's a day read. It's a couple 200 pages, maybe 2 days if you take notes. It gets into a lot of the machinations of Hitler, his agenda, and how Christianity was basically defiled in Nazi Germany. And it's got a lot of fascinating facts in that book. But let's go back to the phones. Taking in order of hold time, let's go to area code 304. That's area code 304. You're up with Doug Hagmann.
Hey, Doug.
Hey.
It's good to speak to you again. I just, what you've been saying for the last few days, I want to say that's, it's been on my heart too. You almost were to a point where you just got to stand, you got to have a place where you can just kind of stand back and let the things happen around you. I know not everybody's in that position, and I'd like to be a lot more prepared than I am, but...
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone. Look, you can have... we're just normal people. You and I'm a normal guy. I don't have a lot of... I would say that you might even be more prepared than I am, okay? But you still have to work towards that every week, How are your preparations coming? Every week. You just have to keep that going.
Yeah, I know. And we have other people working with us. The people in our church. And it's really amazing that people are really, some of them are really waking up. It's like, now what are we going to do? Let's go out and do this and do that. And it's like, But we, you got a plan, and you got a plan for that time where it's going to be an in-between time. And we don't know where the Lord's going to take us anyway. There's always going to be a remnant. There's always going to be His elect. And He's going to always be with us, and He's always going to make a way for us. And I don't know what that way is going to be yet. I don't know if anybody actually knows. No one can tell me that they know.
Yeah, I had a conversation like this within the last couple of days. What you said is so right on. There will be a remnant, and we don't know. We will exist. And go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I like that, but we just don't know. But we know that the Lord is going to. He's going to lead His people through. And as long as He's our standard bearer, yeah, we put Him before us, and He's gonna lead us through. There was no doubt about it. So we can't be afraid, but you just look around and like you say with the financial thing, I've worked for years and I see it all going down the toilet, and it's like there's nothing I can do about it. I wish I would have listened to certain people, 10 or 15 years ago. No.
I was yelling at Steve Quayle. I mean, not yelling at him, giving him a hard time. He was saying, Doug, you should buy gold. I mean, it's going to go up to $400 an ounce. I can't remember. It was some incredible amount, incredibly low amount compared to what it is now. I said, Steve, and silver was like at $4. He said, well, at least buy silver. I said, man, I'm not going to buy silver. Spend $60 or $80 on the 20 rounds of silver. And don't you wish that you just listened at that time? And now, wow. Well, now you're going to have to pay a premium.
Yeah, that's one thing about the normalcy bias that people have a hard time with, because they see everything they work for, and they, and that's where they're tied into the system. And it's like, and I've had, I used to think that way. I was with you. I mean, I voted for George Bush. I thought he was the greatest thing that ever walked down the pike when, before his second term. After that, I didn't like him too much. But, I listened to the bull crap, buy your houses, buy your cars, invest in your 401ks, and,
Just go shopping. Everything's going to be fine.
I wish I would have been shopping for ammunition.
Yeah. Just try today to buy whatever the rounds are for AR-15s or AKs or whatever those rounds are. Try to buy those today if you can find them. I don't even know if you can find them.
I don't know either.
But heck, but look, I think we have to be spiritually prepared first. Hit your knees tonight in practice for what's coming later, or just as general routine. Repent and certainly get spiritually correct, and then just take as you're doing, even if you do it a little bit at a time. But what we're preparing for is that period of time when the Black Swan event happens, and I've got an article on HomelandSecurityUS.com and CanadaFreePress.com. Explaining, metaphorically explaining how this is going to take place. So yes, we have to do this.
And I'm like you, I get told all the time that I'm negative. I know my brothers do too. I mean, we're just negative. It's like, I'm not negative at all. I'm trying to be positive about this, but the most important thing you can be doing right now is preparing for that time. And that's one thing I do know. I mean, that's what the Lord has been dealing with me about, and we just got to prepare as best we can.
That's right. Anything else before I cut you loose?
No, that is great. I'm glad to talk to you again, and you have a wonderful night, and God bless.
God bless. Nice talking to you as well. And that's one thing that I think that we can really all kind of identify with, being the exception to the family, being that crazy uncle in the attic maybe, or looked upon that way. But I'll tell you one thing that I believe. When the time does come and everything does happen and there's chaos all around, you're going to be the leader. You're going to be the person listening to this broadcast and others broadcasts like this. You're going to be the leader for your family or for your group of friends or the element or even the remnant that's left. You're going to be the person that they're going to turn to and say, now what do we do? And hopefully you'll have answers for them. Let's go back to the phones. We're going to go to 253 area code. That's 253. You're up with Doug Hagmann.
Yes, Doug, good morning. I say good morning because I'm on the other side of the world. Can you hear me?
I can hear you like you're sitting right next to me.
Well, yesterday Joe mentioned something about time moving faster. This kind of brought back memories of me for Saigon. I was privileged, quote unquote, to be in Saigon up to 11 o'clock at night, 26 April 1975.
Oh.
And that time everything just speeded up. Nobody walked. Everybody was running. They were trying to do anything they could to get out of the way of the forthcoming Viet Cong, to see who they could find to get them out of country, etc. And I thought this is so much like what I see today. People do sense a sense of panic, and those that get it have made preparations. But those who wait and wake up too late, they're going to find the same thing as the Saigon scenario. In that case, the priority lists were already made. And when they did wake up, the time to make preparations and plans was gone. And I see that now so much of an analogy to that. I do live in an overseas country permanently where there are quite a few retired military and others. About half of us over here do get it. And by the way, you do have a listening audience on the other side of the world. You may be able to track that, but people do listen to you on internet, as I am. And what we notice, the ones that do get it, we are doing the best we can. So many of them, though, the price of beer is the same. The girls are pretty, the sun comes up, and they don't care what happens. They have no idea. And they're going to be the ones that are going to be in deep trouble. And so many people over here rely on the ATM for their weekly fix of money.
Right.
And I think that's another problem coming up that nobody has any ideas. So you're waking up a few people. Keep it up. May the good Lord be with you.
Well, sir,
and,
if I can tap
yes,
into your extensive knowledge as a guy who was at the fall of Saigon at the 11th hour there, the so-called liberation of Saigon, what advice do you have for people, for our listeners? I mean, you've seen a lot, you've been through a lot. Let me tap into your knowledge base. What advice would you impart to the listeners tonight or this morning?
Well, I worked for a small, obscure company known as U.S. Government Incorporated, which you may have heard of them, and my office was very, very close to the back gate of the U.S. Embassy on Moctenchi Street. And I physically watched the Marines and security people beating people off the gate that were trying to climb into the embassy with complete panic. For those people who are astute enough to listen and to try to understand what's going on in the world, don't disregard the feelings that you get. If you think something bad is going to happen, spend your money, take care of things, get your preparations in order. For those people who, as Steve Quayle says, dumb unto death, who don't to get it, they never will. They're going to be in trouble, and they're going to cause trouble for the rest of us who have been prepared. That's my feeling. Even over here, some of us have discussed if the ATMs go down or other problems, we're going to have our friends, quote unquote, beating on the door saying, "Hey, can you loan me $100?" And I don't know what the advice is. Some people will get it, and the majority won't. And I wish I had an answer, but I don't, sir.
Well, no, but I think that you're, just by saying listen to that inner voice and pay attention to your surroundings and prepare to act before others, or act before the people are on the fence, climbing over the fence. I think that speaks volumes. I really do. And I want to thank you for everything.
I keep in pretty close touch with a bunch of my colleagues. I was in a unit that didn't wear uniforms, if that gives you an idea of what I did in the military, and later the same thing in Asia, and I was also privileged, quote unquote, to go into Somalia before the Marines arrived. And so I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've seen people that are prepared get through things the best as possible. But most people prefer to block it out because it's bad thoughts. Doesn't sound nice, so I'll continue with my TV and my beer and hope everything will go well. And you guys are doing great to open up people, so God bless you all.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. God bless you, sir. What a great call. Thanks for listening. Wow. Folks, talk about somebody who has seen things, who has experienced things. Did you happen to catch what he said? I had the privilege of being there or seeing these things. The privilege. Isn't that an interesting choice of words? And that was a deliberate choice of words, because with experience breeds knowledge and wisdom. Wow, what a great call. Thank you very much. And to the group of people listening on the other side of the world, have a great morning. God bless you. You folks will certainly be in our thoughts and our prayers. And certainly stay safe. We're going to go back to the phones. We're going to take Call from 309. 309, you're up with Doug Hagmann.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi, Mr. Hagmann.
Yes.
I'm calling from the Midwest. I am an avid listener of yours. And because there's so little good information out there, you guys are like a lighthouse to us others that are awake and listening to God on this issue and not mainstream television.
You think we're doing
last night?
You think we're doing okay?
You're doing awesome.
All right,
you guys are doing great. Really, you're covering the necessary things. That's for sure.
All right. Well, sometimes I just got to check, but I didn't mean to interrupt. You were going to say something about last night.
I was. It was an awesome show last night with L.A. Marzulli, and I was thinking there was, I think, a caller after the show, and they were talking about political correctness, and I was just thinking about that and how it that is exactly where Christians went wrong. I mean, the political correctness it replaced our moral compass, if you will. We wanted to get along with everybody and be peaceful and loving, and that worked against us. We didn't stand up when we saw something wrong.
I was in the middle of, I was trying to put my thoughts together in writing, and I was away from writing for several days, and I certainly apologize for that, but I was trying to put my thoughts together. And what you've mentioned, you're correct, because, how did we get to this point? Well, we have to look at where we were to understand how we got here, so we don't keep doing the same stupid things every time,
Exactly.
And so, I mean, look at Roe v. Wade, accepting that with the way that the Christian, the church, I mean, are we serious?
Even the women's movement, even the women's liberation movement. I'm going to say my mother was a part of that movement, and my mother is a Christian woman.
But see how perfect that deception is. Oh man, and thank you for bringing that up, because the liberation movement, the women's liberation movement, was
all of it.
Part of it was
all funded. They have funded both sides of everything. When I mean everything, I mean everything from Occupy Wall Street to the women's liberation movement to all of it.
Oh man, you are absolutely right, 100% right on the money. God bless you for that.
I just had a couple of things that on those lines, just really quickly, because you might want to take some more calls, but we just need to walk with uprightness. The truth is that we are right, and we know how this ends. We need to walk and stand up to what we see. We have to. That is our calling. And we need to know that we're right. We're right in what we're doing. We're right in those thoughts, whether it's politically correct or not.
Exactly. We walk in the righteousness of God, and we are able to, it's abandoning the situational ethics and the morality of having the morality of a rubber band. We stick to what we know to be true, good, and tolerance of evil. Then evil then tolerance itself is evil.
Yeah, exactly. And and I know that Joe has said it before, that those who dwell in the farthest parts are afraid of your signs. That's all. These people that say people are negative when they talk about these things or bring up the truth, it's because they are not ready to face it. They are not in a position, a personal position, to understand or comprehend what that means, because that means they'd have to look at themselves.
Well, you're 100% correct. Thank you so much for your call.
I love your show. You guys are awesome. Please keep doing what you're doing, and you're totally on the right track. So.
Well, thanks for that. God bless you. Have a great night.
Boy,
caller from the Midwest, huh? Great call. And she's right. She's absolutely right to bring out, to make make a note of the point that if you look at American history, the women's movement, just look at everything that happened after, around the World War II and afterwards, the entrance, the necessity of women to enter into the industrial workforce in the absence of men here in the United States. Well, I guess we can go back to even analyzing why we entered World War II in the first place, to get a full view of the situation. But what were the collateral effects of World War II? Well, you had the women entering the workforce, and then pretty soon as the caller mentioned, the women's liberation, the feminist movement, funded by both sides, or even a part of the communist goals. And one might say, well, what does communism have to do with anything? Isn't communism antithetical to a one world governance system? No, it's really at the root of it. And this is how this is going to play out. It's by understanding where we've been, to know where we are, to anticipate where we will be if we keep on the same track, and also to, as necessary, to avoid, to get out of the way instead of bleeding. I had a friend that I always used to say, you duck or bleed, and that's where we're at. So back to the phones here. We're going to go to 413. 413, you're up with Doug Hagmann.
Hi, Doug. I have some scripture I want to read, if
sure.
I can.
Sure.
Okay.
We can always do that.
I know. And this is in regards to last night's show, the Book of Enoch, all of that. Oh, there's your phone again.
Yeah, can you believe that? It's just. I'm gonna have a sound never mind. Go ahead. Go ahead and read the scripture.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read. This is Hebrews, and it's chapter 11, verse 1. It says, "Now faith is being sure of what we hope for, and certain of what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith Abel offered God a better sacrifice than Cain did. By faith he was commended as a righteous man, when God spoke well of his offerings, and by faith he still speaks even though he is dead. By faith Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." And it goes on to talk about how Noah prepared an ark, and, the people of that day, which is supposed to be exactly how it is in the end times, or, how they were towards Noah, and he continued to condemn them and build the ark, and, the rest of the story. But I just thought I had a little bit of a revelation about Enoch and went to the scriptures, because a lot of people, they don't read Enoch because it's an extra biblical book. It's not in the Bible. But there's an awful lot from that Genesis 6 chapter that L.A. Marzulli and Steve Quayle and a lot of people talk about. And it's just interesting that Enoch was translated. He was one of two, right, who didn't actually die. He was translated. He went missing. And the Book of Enoch is not in the Bible, but yet it has so many keys to Genesis 6. I just thought that was very interesting.
I got to tell you this. I was a big anti-Enoch reader.
Right.
I was thinking, well, wait a minute. If it's not in the Bible, I'm not going to put much credence in it. But as you said, the Bible makes reference to it.
Right. And Enoch was a son of Cain, which Cain was the seed of the devil, of Satan, really. I mean, if you think about it, you can think of it. I don't want to get way out there, but Satan was pleasing and Cain was not, and Enoch was Cain's son, but he walked pleasing to God, and God took him for whatever reason. He took him. He translated him.
Right. Right. And I think it's an important distinction. I think the way I look at this is just me, by the way. I look at the Book of Enoch as a historical reference and kind of a complement or historical reference to the Bible. That's how I look at it.
Yeah,
So,
there's nothing in Enoch that contradicts anything in the Bible. It only enhances it. So anyway, I just thought that. And I also wanted to make a comment a few callers back, the younger man who was talking to you about, like, hooking up a network. I just wanted to throw out there that, every day I go through the same scenario of who I listen to every day. And you guys are always, on that list. I listen to you guys every day. And I listen to Rick Wiles, and I listen to Irvin Baxter, and then I have a few others, Corbett Report, whatever. But Rick Wiles is trying to set up a Flowing Streams entire network right now of many, many of you guys that all are trying to get the truth out. And that may be an avenue that essentially, hopefully, you guys can really, connect yourselves together. And then Irving Baxter, he is setting up a television station right there. He's trying to build a building and set up a network right in Israel where they can broadcast the word through these, you guys, the alternative media.
Right.
So I don't know. Hopefully someday we can hopefully soon, within the next, it's all coming very quickly.
Well, I'll be talking to Rick, sometime before the end of the weekend, and I'll be asking how his efforts are coming. There's efforts taking place on all sides. So, and to coordinate something this massive, it really, it's not as easy as it sounds.
It would take the hand of God.
Yeah, it definitely will, and but we've got that belief, and I'm sure that look, I'm sure it's gonna. I'm sure we're gonna grow in his spirit and word, and I really believe that. And Christians United Broadcasting, I'll tell you what, they've done so much for us. I want to thank them so much. So
they could fall under the umbrella too of whatever. It's got to be, it could. You don't know. God is just very miraculous in the way He works. Doug, you're going to turn your head, and there it'll be. Look at where you are right now. And I'm giving you encouragement right now because you're getting the word out. Whether you like it or not, God's propelling you forward.
Oh, thank you.
God bless you.
Well, I got to tell you, it's if you would have asked me, 2 years ago if I'd be sitting here, no, of course not. But boy, man can make plans, and God laughs, and puts you in the place where you are to be. So that's if you put your faith in God, and that's where I think we've done. Well, thank you so much for your call. God bless you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too. Great call. Fantastic call. I want to clarify something I said earlier. Again, this comes from just a true friend of mine, wise beyond anything. Wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to foresee the future consequences of present actions. And if you think about that and apply that to your life, maybe when you were, I don't know, in your 20s, isn't that true? Wisdom is the ability to foresee the future consequences of present actions. I had that written on a card on my studio wall here, and you know something? I don't know where that went. I'm going to have to rewrite that again. Wisdom is the ability to foresee the future consequences of present actions. Sir, I want to thank you very much for that. All right, let's go back one more time here, a couple more times as we can to the phones. Wait a minute, I'm getting a super secret private message here. Let me just double check here. All right. No, that was nothing. All right, here we go. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to the 303 area code. That's 303. You're up with Doug Hagmann.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. What's on your mind this evening?
Well, just keeping my focus on Yahushua.
Indeed.
Just want to tell everybody in the chat room and it's listening, we got a pretty good umbrella to stand under here with the Hagmann and Hagmann show. I feel that, centralizing under one umbrella, the whole freedom movement will make it an easier target.
Huh.
You guys haven't with your electrical equipment.
Well, that's true. Some of it was actually operator error, as we found out, but a lot of it has been seriously, and I've got to, I'll say this, admit this on the air, a lot of it had to do with is outside interference, deliberate interference that we have never experienced. I mean, I've paid, and I'll say this, I've paid some pretty highly priced and knowledgeable engineers to come in here, take a look at the setup, follow the cables, and watch one time things take place. And he looked at me and said, I can't describe this. This is something outside of your system. This is coming in at your system or at your broadcast. This is not coming from your equipment. And to hear him say that, and Joe will back me up on this, oh man. So you have a point there to the extent that if we could be decentralized but have a point of broadcast, that wouldn't be that would be just a point of broadcast where everyone could go to and just kind of through one click be able to listen. But beyond that, I wouldn't certainly not occupy the same building or the same equipment or same airwaves, but and have the ability to go backwards too.
It comes down to the message. You guys are the only ones out there in tandem, Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, etc., that want to talk about Jesus Christ and how it relates to the world and signs. A lot of the other shows, they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, and shame on them.
But why is that? Really, why is that?
It's their fan base. It's absolutely their fan base because there's a lot of believers out there, and I've mentioned this before. It comes down to spiritual maturity. We know who our Lord and Savior is, and that's Jesus Christ. Those that are sitting on the fence, they want to have it both ways. They want to keep one world to be Christian, and then they want to turn that world away to be in the world. And again, along with your preparedness, the only preparedness that means anything is your relationship with Yahushua, Jesus Christ. And
exactly.
I love what you guys are doing. This is where I've landed. And I want to also, on kind of a sidetrack, I want to thank you, Mr. Hagmann, for your service to this country and the oath that you swore to the Constitution.
Well, thank you so much for that, and I appreciate that. God bless you, and thanks so much for your call. Wow.
Bless everyone out there.
Wow. All right. Wow. I tell you what, great callers, and thank you so much for the outpouring of support. Let's go to 716, Western New York. 716. You're up with Doug Hagmann.
Hello. How are you?
Very well.
I need to practice my courage tonight. I met a friend today in town who is someone that is very much in the know. And there are apparently big DHS people in town, and they're paying visits on veterans with the suggestion getting in the door that they might be having, copyrighted material? But they're actually looking for guns.
Okay.
So, and like I say, I'm right across the border from you in Lucy Town. So it's It's here.
I know where you're at. I mean, by you giving me that, I know where you're at now. And
I figured there wasn't, if it would be helpful if there are people. Do you have an audience from this area, or are they probably from all over the world and all over the country?
We have a pretty vast audience. As a matter of fact, where you're at, there are a number of people that I do know personally that listen to this program, either live or on archive. And the county that you're in, I have a contact within the county. And I heard something, what you're referring to, I heard something. It was just kind of a grumbling. It wasn't a rumor, it was a grumbling. Like, what are these people doing? And the person
most of what I got today was whispers, and my friend is not in a position where he was so angry that he said, I wanted to get this viral. And he's really not in a position to do that. So he didn't give me all the details, but they got into the house, they tore up these people's houses, and in one occasion they turned over the couch and wanted to cut the bottom of the couch. Looking
for... No, I didn't hear that.
Huh?
No, I did not hear that. Okay.
So this is, this is very specific, and like I said, this is a person that is in the know. And I said, well, let me see if I can figure out some way where I can make it public. Give me the notes on what you want me to say, and so I could be more specific. But that's about all I have right now. But I know he said he had at least 3 or 4 friends who had visits.
All right. If I can make a suggestion, because if this, well, I'm not going to say if, this being the case, because of the close proximity to where we broadcast from and the area from which you're calling, without giving any names, without giving any specific addresses or anything like that, if any victims of this harassment would like to have that harassment documented by photograph, by video, whatever, I could have, or I personally would go out, take some pictures without giving any names or putting anything on the, or without identification. Make it go viral, because if this is the case, that there is this war against veterans, and I believe that there is, we need to get this viral.
But I didn't believe it was here.
Oh, it's here. It's here. And people think that this is a rumor.
I didn't believe it was in the backyard. I know we have drones running up and down the street behind me, but this was a real surprise, and most of the information I got was between people and in whispers. So, like I said, I said, what do you want made public? Make me some notes, and, let me see what I can do. So get it on video.
Well, what I would like to do, because I'm licensed in New York State, in the state of New York as an investigator, I can go out there and authenticate the evidence. And because of that licensing, in other words, I could document the evidence, authenticate it, and make it public, if not with the people, but at least show what the destruction has been. And then, but I'm also, because of my status, our status, both Joe and I, we do not have to, we don't have to reveal anything. In fact, we're bound by a confidentiality agreement. So it's kind of a very unique situation. So I would be more than willing to help whoever is involved in this and take this on, because look, if this is happening to the people it's going to be happening to the people other listeners know as well, or even people listening. That's incredible. This is incredible.
Yeah, I've just I was kind of hoping you wouldn't pick up.
No, I understand that.
It takes courage to go out there and there and even talk about it at this point.
So just to clarify here, you've got, or these more than one.
They seem to have the same thing in common. They're veterans, and they've either made gun purchases or ammunition purchases in the in the recent past. At least that's what I understood from him today.
Well, I'd love to follow this up. My email is accessible via our website at homelandsecurityus.com. Everything would be held in strictest of confidence. If you want to email me, like
email is confident.
Well, I know, but I'm not going to.
They send one copy to Obama and one copy to Santa Claus, and Okay,
or just email me.
I'm joking. If I don't laugh, it's like I'll start crying.
I know, but I can contact you by telephone or contact whoever by telephone or whatever by smoke signal. I don't care, but we got to get this information out there, and we'd be more than willing to.
That's what he said. He was just he was ready to go ballistic, and he says, "I've got to make this viral." And I said, "Well, don't you do it? Let me see what I can do." So, let me see what I can do on this end.
All right, ma'am. Thank you so much. Please get back in touch with me off air. My contact information is on the website. I will make it a priority. We'll act immediately, and we will make it viral. I can guarantee you that. We will make it viral.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much.
All right, God bless. Thanks for your courage, ma'am.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wow. Folks, whether you heard that clearly, distinctly, and understood that, what this woman is saying is DHS or people from DHS, deputized by DHS, whatever you want to call it, allegedly going into the homes of veterans, the commonalities. They're veterans. They allegedly purchased guns recently. These people, without warrant and without cause, access the interior of these veterans' homes by what you just heard, more than one, and under the pretext of possibly being in possession of copyrighted material. Where that comes from, I don't know. I've heard things happening in that county, which is a county that borders Pennsylvania and New York. I've heard of things happening there. I did not realize it was to this degree. That's what's taking place. And if that's taking place there, then I can guarantee you it's taking place elsewhere. And with equal viciousness and so we have to definitely make this viral, because when you begin attacking veterans, now I have not seen this, I cannot verify this, but we will do our best to authenticate this and to make it viral. But if this is what's taking place, then it's later than we thought, much later than we thought. Unbelievable. It really is. So just to recap tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone. I'll tell you what, we'll just try to squeeze in one more phone call here just to be fair. Let's go to 732. 732, you're up with Doug Hagmann. 732, you're up.
Hi, Doug. How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
Okay. I had a phone call today, and usually when we're going to have a bad storm or snow, I'm in New Jersey,
yes,
they usually call and they, alert you to, that the snowstorm's coming and what side of the street to park on because of the snow plows. But we got a call today. It was a recording, and it said to turn in your guns, we'll give you $200. And I think this is starting to walk over to the East Coast, because I've been listening to your show for a long time, and 24/7 I'm on the computer, and I'm, trying to find, what's actually going on. And when it comes into your own town, I start saying to myself, something's up, and, it doesn't look good. And
well, clarify this for me. Who called and offered you money for your guns?
The police station. I'm in Neptune, New Jersey, and they had a recording
Oh,
and,
okay. Okay.
And I guess apparently it went through the whole township,
Wow.
But So
and this is happening in your
I know
area.
you're in Pennsylvania, and I'm in Jersey, so I just wanted to at least, let you know what's going on this side of the Delaware.
What county are you in, sir? Would you mind telling me that?
Yeah, in Monmouth County, New Jersey.
Okay. All right, I'm going to do some investigating here, research, and I'm going to try to find out what's going on there. What's up with these recordings? My friend, we're at the end of the show. I got to cut you loose. God bless you. Thank you for that information. Keep listening. Thank you so much, folks. That'll do it. That'll do it for the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Thursday, the 7th day of March 2013. I want to thank everyone for listening. God bless you. Stay safe. Hit your knees tonight, and thank God for what you have.